All right. Hello, hello, hello. Hello, hello, hello. How you guys doing? Hello, hello, hello. Okay. Uh okay. I'm not that This isn't that late. This is not that late. This is 12 minutes. I started the stream 12 minutes late. Do you guys remember how bad it got at one point? I was showing up 30 plus 45 minutes late. That was when it was bad. Ricky Servant says, "Remember when he was on time for like 4 weeks straight?" Yeah, let's all look at Ricky. I wish we could all be more like Ricky. You know? Look at Well, I guess it's not the bright side because I'm not continuing that 4 weeks streak. But just remember what I don't know. Don't dwell on the negative. I guess that's what I'm trying to say. Loud Waffle says we remember. Loud Waffle says this is an hour late. No, I changed the time. Didn't I change the time? I changed the time. Did I not change the time? I swear I changed the time. Keenan, thanks for being a Yonko tier member for 18 months. What's up, Morj? I know it's off topic, but have you seen Evangelion? No. I've never seen that full series. Didn't I change the time? Am I crazy? Oh, Loud Waffle says we go by original time. No, original. I'm allowed to change the time. I'm allowed to change the time. I maintain that. Not as a joke. I maintain that I should be allowed to change the time. At least once. I should be allowed one change. Okay. As for Evangelion, so I've seen part of Evangelion. Oh, Hidden Island's here. What's up, man? Hair getting long, Morj. Hidden Island says that I swear he just got a. Didn't you? I've seen. Haven't you? Didn't you cut your hair recently or something like that? I swear I've seen you on my Twitter feed. So you cut your hair, and now you think you can come around commenting on. Now that you've left the long hair club, you're going around looking at everybody being like, their hair's too long. That guy's hair is too long. Am I crazy? I feel like I swear I've seen a image of you with short hair now or something like that. Jordan Vance says, to be fair, he's usually much later. This is not true. This is not true. I've been recently mostly on time. Evangelion, I do want to see Evangelion. Because I know it's like a really great series, yada yada yada, classic, blah 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 blah. I've seen the first couple episodes, and then I've seen other parts in clips because again, one of my roommates when I was living in Baltimore was going through lots of anime, so like I'd come downstairs and watch parts of what like just is on screen. So I've seen like towards the ending parts of Evangelion, and the first 2 episodes I watched in full. Fatingo, thanks for being a Pirate King tier member for 18 months, man. For those of you who don't know, the next Pirate King tier podcast, which is coming out this week. No, not this week. The submissions will go up this week, and the actual podcast will go up start early next week. This will be one I'll be doing high, if you're interested. The way it works is basically you sign up for Pirate King tier, you submit your questions. Questions could be on anything, One Piece, life-related, outside One Piece, other anime, manga, movies, TV shows, video games, general life, NBA, whatever the fuck, anything. I answer them very in-depth in an hour-plus long podcast, usually between an hour and a half. And this one, because it's a break week, we got nothing better to do, I'll be doing this one high. So for those of you who are interested, feel free to tune in. Fatingo, thanks for being a Pirate King tier member. Morj, so as I was saying, Morj, I'm begging you not to skip leg day. It's for your own good. You cannot end up looking like Indian Bartholomew Kuma. I mean, for the long time, like, I used to do actual leg exercises. Then my my Achilles tendon got too bad at a certain point. Had to cut that out. My Achilles is good now. So, like, I'm gonna be doing a lot, like, for leg, like, I'm thinking I'll probably do some stuff, like, maybe I'll do squats, stuff like that, but I'm also thinking, like, because I'm trying to get into boxing a little bit, That's very leg intensive. So I'm thinking, maybe I'll do some more research on this. But I'm like, is that good enough? Because it is very, very leg intensive. You're on the balls of your feet a lot. The stance is naturally putting a burden on your legs. You're in a constant squat stance a little bit. Not a literal squat stance, but like it's semi. Use your calf muscles a lot. So I'm gonna see. What makes sense. The main point is I'll be getting leg exercise in. Brooke is the GOAT. Thanks a lot. Contrary to popular belief, I do not believe Mihawk is Conqueror's Haki because it does not fit his nature. He doesn't have a crew, doesn't care about Pirate King or Yonko titles, and would rather enjoy peace over fame. So those are not the things that really go into Conqueror's Haki. You don't need to want to. I think people got too into the idea of like the word king, and applied to real world context king while ignoring what the One Piece context of king is, right? You don't need to be like a fucking, like, you don't need to have a crew to be a Conqueror's Haki user. It's the disposition of a king, and the way the disposition of the king is written in One Piece. And this is distilling it, because there's a lot more nuance to it that you can draw from the entire series. But the disposition of the king is this kind of extremely strong-willed mentality that is kind of like this driving force to make you, how do I say, not bow down to anyone, to have this sort of persona or mentality that causes you to drive towards the top, to challenge, to just, how do I say this? Like the simplest distinction I can put is, for example, when Kaido drops in front of Luffy, when Kaido drops in front of Kid. Luffy and Kid, like in Act 1, right? Or Kid in Chapter 795. We're told that Luffy, like we know that Luffy right away tries to fight Kaido. Kid right away tries to fight Kaido, right? Other characters, Law, for example, who does not have the disposition of a king, runs away because it's just the strategic thing to do right now. He doesn't think they're ready yet. It's just like, let's play it safe, right? Disposition of the king is basically, I am the king. Like, that's the idea in One Piece. I am the king. Like, it's the same thing that drove Zoro to challenge Mihawk all the way back in Chapter 50 when he's nowhere near ready yet, you know? You see this sort of mentality over and over throughout One Piece. It's the disposition of a king. It's not about whether you actually have followers or not, right? Because there's a shit ton of characters in One Piece that have followers that don't actually have Conqueror's Haki. It's not whether you actually want to rule anything. It's your drive and the approach that you take towards the world. And a lot of Conqueror's Haki users, the vast majority, do aim for the top in some sense, right? So Mihawk doesn't want to be Pirate King, but he shot for, or at least he, as far as we understand, he didn't keep reaching for that goal or something. He wanted to be the world's strongest swordsman, as far as we understand, and he did achieve that. I would find it very difficult to imagine Mihawk not having Conqueror's Haki. Let's get the stream likes up to 100 really quick. Marcel Beans, thanks for upgrading your membership to Pirate King tier. I hope you enjoy the upcoming podcast. Polmau, holy shit. Thank you for, okay, Polmau yourself, you were a member for 18 months. Thank you. And thank you for gifting 10 memberships. It is, like, I always appreciate that. You're one of the, there's certain people that like to come in and gift, and you've always been one of them. I really, really appreciate that, man. A lot of people got to thank Polma here. The Joe, Jordan Vance, Darkest, Aryan, Sadegian, Jonathan, Shamam, Michael Bisley, Bramjat, Kokar, Mithlish, Seth, William, Tob, AK. Everybody say thanks to Polma. And seriously, thanks, man. Appreciate it. Shouts in the chat from everybody to Polma. Say some thanks and everything. Hold on. Okay, still catching up on members. Let's get the stream likes up to 100 real quick. Ignorant Weed, thanks for being a Pirate King tier member for 6 months. Hope you're looking forward to the upcoming podcast. Imagine if Vegapunk changed the stream time for 30 minutes. Okay, well, fuck, that would be pretty bad. If they would get the timer to run all the way down and then Vegapunk's like, actually, I'm going to need another 30, man. Yeah, the good thing the fate of the world doesn't really rely on this this stream being on time. BeatGamer99, thank you for being a Yonko tier member for 4 months. Morj, what if the reason Joyboy was taken down was because the Ancient Kingdom and him were planning to make the world more habitable with the ancient weapons? the ancient kingdom and planning to make the world more habitable. That is interesting. Because the world is quite not inhabitable at the moment, but power over the Sea Kings. I don't know how Pluton would really work into that. I don't know. I wonder how much insight we're going to get with the ancient robot situation. You know, because the ancient robot, the connection to Joy Boy, whatever that may be, that's probably going to give a ton of insight. Ton of insight. Zolden, thank you for being a Pirate King tier member for 7 months. Did you see that Matt Owens talked on Hassan Piker stream about how they filmed the character moment of Usopp being ashamed in the Chew fight, but it was cut out because of the writer strike? So sad. Shit, that would make so much sense, man. Because I do feel like out of the 5 Straw Hats, Usopp got the most short... Yeah, I think he got the most shortchanged in the, you know, in the version of the live action that we got. I can kind of understand why it's impossible to... Yeah, I mean... Yeah, I guess if you have to make cuts at a certain point, maybe the Usopp scene is one of the easier ones to cut. And it kind of would keep the flow of that final battle going. I did think that the final battle overall was surprisingly... Again, I love the One Piece live action. I've watched it now 3 times. Once by myself, once with friends, once with family. I get a kick out of watching it every time. I really like it. One of the small things I will say about it is I still feel like the final battle feels a little bit compressed compared to just the amount of build-up for it. And the Usopp thing is kind of like a little example of that, I think, where they could have dug in a little bit more into the Straw Hats' journey to defeating the Arlong Pirates. So yeah, I'd agree. That makes sense. But I do also understand why that's one that they would cut if they're cutting some stuff. Alright, let's go. Okay. Caught Marcel Beans, caught Zolden, right? Okay. I think I'm caught up on members. Let me start catching up on supers real quick. Where am I at supers? Where am I? Okay. Hold on. Sorry. We're getting there. Kino the Far, thanks for the 5. Egghead is a top arc in One Piece only within the context of the greater story. Probably not top 5 if we're talking lone arcs, since it relies heavily on previous arcs. I do kind of see that in the sense that, I get where you're getting at there, in the sense that, I mean, yeah, it's kind of like, look, if you read, like, Drum Kingdom, you could go drop into Drum Kingdom, read it as almost a standalone arc, and you get a really full, fleshed out storyline of setting up a new context, characters. Yeah, I get that. Like, setting up it's a new setting, new context, new characters. You're kind of starting the story from scratch, the villains, etc. Egghead Island is picking up where a lot of things have built up. Picking up where a lot of things have kind of been left off. The story of Kuma we've kind of been waiting on. The story of Bonnie. A lot of this, the background work and mystery was set beforehand. Gorosei, etc. We've been waiting on finding out more about them for a little bit. A lot of that is past setup, Vegapunk. I get it, but at the same time, I feel like that's just because we're used to One Piece arcs often dropping us into storylines where a lot needs to be built from scratch, and that's just a result of the island-based storytelling, right? Whereas if I'm thinking of another series like, let's say, Chainsaw Man, the storyline, like the arcs just flow into one another back to back. Like Jujutsu Kaisen, the story arcs flow in, like everything is segueing into the next storyline pretty clearly, and the plot threads from this storyline flow into the next storyline, etc. I also think that, yeah, I think that's kind of the norm for how we judge most manga arcs in general. Hunter x Hunter is similar to One Piece, quite similar to One Piece in the sense that Togashi likes doing new setting, brand new large cast of characters, brand new conflict. Togashi actually goes even more extreme than Oda in terms of, like, he'll just totally change the straight up the writing style, or even in some ways the genre in which he's writing in, kind of for the genre that he's kind of taking after. each new arc. But I would say most manga arcs, you do kind of expect the like if I'm evaluating an Attack on Titan arc, it's usually gonna involve a lot of like lore reveals that are built off of past arcs lore reveals or character storylines continuing off of past character storylines, So I don't necessarily know if I agree with that, but I get where you're coming from. Like Water 7 Enies Lobby can kind of just be dropped into it. You do need the background with Robin and you need trace amounts of background and everything, but it works more as a singular thing, whereas Egghead Island is picking up a ton of it's bouncing off of a ton of things that have already been set up. I get it. I get what you're saying. It's over. Thanks a lot. The constant nyahaha from Gear 5th is annoying. So I'm gonna not say anything on this, just because I've gone back and forth on Gear 5th. Initially loved it, then there were points where I was like, okay, how's it doing it for tension? Well, tension's the very reductive way to talk about it. There's a lot more that goes into it, because I think one of the things that I really just dislike about Gear 5th is, like, on one hand, people will say that no, it doesn't affect tension at all. Like, it's arguments I've talked about before, but I feel like they're worth reiterating. Some people, like, there are people who say that One Piece has never had tension, like, it's always been goofy during final battles, and then they post a picture of Water Luffy because they're fucking stupid as fuck and forget that the final round of Luffy versus Crocodile had zero jokes whatsoever, and the entire point is that no, Luffy did not defeat Crocodile with a joke form like Water Luffy, right? Like, it's actually counter to their argument. But that's going off on a tangent. Like, there's some people who argue that no, One Piece was never fucking serious. Look, like, Luffy has gags in other fights, as if that's the same thing. Then there's other people who argue that Gear 5th doesn't affect tension at all, which is patently false, because it's a comedic form which innately undercuts tension. These two are direct opposites. And then finally there's 3, which were people who argue that no, but Gear 5th can get serious at times. So for a while I thought that all these arguments were incorrect. But then this third argument, Gear 5th can be serious at times, that's something that I started to believe more over the course of this arc. And I think we've seen traces of that. We already saw traces of that with Kaido. I needed personally more confirmation that this was the case, and we've seen, I feel like, this arc, traces of Luffy getting more serious. So for me at this point in time, I don't have a hard stance on Gear 5th either way. I'm kind of just being open. Like, I'm really gonna let things just play out for a while, basically. Because I really do enjoy the form and the creativity of the form. And I think it's a great form for breaking tension. Like, when the goal is to break tension, it's a great form for that. And that's, lots of times the goal is to break tension. Like, that's better for the story in moments, to have a lot of serious, heavy atmosphere, and then have that broken by something very bright, optimistic, that brings joy, etc. So it's great in certain ways. I'm just letting it play out, because I do think I've seen more signs of what Luffy could be like if he got serious in Gear 5th. We've seen glimpses that he can go there. It's just harder for him to go there, as in the form sways him more towards being... It innately affects his personality to being more lighthearted and more carefree than he normally would be in many situations. So, but he clearly can get, like, I've seen traces of his old self. So, for me, I know that that's not a direct response to, like, you saying, like, Luffy laughing in Gear 5th is getting annoying or grating. That's just a thing that's going to be here to stay. For me, it's going to be more so, like, yeah, like, when the story calls for it, and maybe we don't want to see Luffy. Well, I guess some people already don't want to see Luffy laughing, but I don't know. Like, I'm just gonna wait and see. I'm like, okay, yeah, this is just stuff that we're just gonna see a bunch. But as long as we still get those moments or scenes where we can see the old Luffy mixed in as well, I'm gonna be happy. So right now, I'm just giving a long, open-minded runway to my opinions on Gear 5th. That's just where I'm at right now. JWP, thanks a lot. Lol, I thought I was late, but Morj started 7 minutes ago. Yeah, that's not that late. I scheduled the stream for 8 p.m. EST. Also, let's get the stream likes up to 100 real quick. The Hidden Island says, thanks for the 10. Big ups, Morj. Best of luck with boxing. It's a great sport. Yeah, I've seen your post of you hitting the bag, and I don't know, like, somewhat cool to see, because, like, I mean, I don't don't remember if I don't know if you're still posting whatever, but I've definitely seen some, and I thought that it looked way smoother later on than initially. So yeah, I don't know, looks fun. Marcel Beans, thanks for being a Pirate King tier member for 2 months, man. Is your microphone actually bigger than your head? It's perspective. Let's see, so if I move this here, move my head here. I mean, it's a big microphone. But talking about this part, no, it's not. Cuppa Anime Joe, welcome to Pirate King tier member, man. I hope you enjoy the upcoming podcast. Brooke is the GOAT. Thanks a lot. Then explain to me how Zoro had no idea what Conquerors was coming out of time skip. Why does Mihawk camp in paradise instead of challenging the strongest? Wait, why would Zoro even... wait, why would Zoro know what Conqueror's Haki is? Because, like, Mihawk didn't... That just means that Mihawk never used it on him. That doesn't mean that Mihawk doesn't have Conqueror's Haki. I don't know what to really say to that, because, like... Luffy didn't know what advanced Conqueror's Haki was, and Luffy didn't know what advanced Conqueror's Haki was, and he trained with Rayleigh. I imagine Rayleigh can probably use advanced Conqueror's Haki. Well, maybe that's an assumption, but it's Rayleigh. Yeah, if Zoro probably just didn't get to that point in their training. Zoro was like, if you remember, it seems like Zoro was still. Like, he'd gotten shit down, like, turning his blades black, right? Like, that was kind of... I don't know. Like, we don't know how far he got in his training, but I don't know if he got to that whole, like... because that's the advanced stuff, right? That's the tippy top, using Conqueror's Haki, advanced Conqueror's Haki, etc. The other thing is that Mihawk himself, like, Conqueror's Haki in particular, that's the one... singular one where you can't, like, Mihawk can't teach Zoro anything about that until Zoro himself brings it out, like, you need to do, like, that's one that you need to bloom yourself. So if Zoro didn't, like, that's on him. If Zoro never unleashed any Conqueror's Haki over the course of his entire time with Mihawk. In fact, Mihawk might be thinking that Zoro's a bum coming out of the time skip. He's like, fuck, I wasted 2 years on this dude. Never once showed any Conqueror's Haki. All right. Well, I sent the next Vista off into the world. All right. Why does Mihawk camp in paradise instead of challenging the strongest? I don't know, man. Hopefully we learn more about Mihawk down the line, but didn't he challenge the strongest? Because as far as we know, he challenged to become the world's strongest swordsman, and he's got that title, right? Was he supposed to go to, I don't know. Like, who's he supposed to challenge still? I don't know who he's still supposed to challenge. As far as we know, the other strongest character that we know of that we most people would say is, like, how do I say this that makes nobody angry? A sword-oriented person, right? The other strongest person who would fall into a sword-oriented person category is Shanks, and Mihawk did used to challenge him, right? So what more is Mihawk really supposed to do? I think he got his time. But here's the thing. You raise a good point, which is, and it's a point that's raised in the story itself in chapter 1082, right? 1082 by Buggy, which is like he's calling Crocodile and Mihawk out, which is you guys are content with this bullshit, but where's your ambitions at? You guys could shoot higher. You let go of something even greater. Right? So, yeah, Mihawk in theory, maybe there's more to learn about this character. We can understand kind of his relationship to the title of World's Strongest Swordsman, what that means to him, but also theoretically what the title of Pirate King means to him. Did he once have that and let go of it? Because maybe Mihawk realized he doesn't have the capacity to make friends and build a crew or something like that. I'm just spitballing here, but clearly that's something that he deemed was not, or at some point he was never interested, but Buggy's speech suggests to me that Oda's implying as an author that perhaps there is more to it and Mihawk was interested at some point and let it go. And what were the reasons for it? We don't know. But I think once you become the world's strongest swordsman, you clearly become the king of some shit. You become you reach the pinnacle of all swordsmen. Miss Pirate King message from Marcel Beans. No, I got that one. Yeah, just catching up. I mean, like, you gotta remember, like, it's not just your, like, Shanks is maybe the strongest Conqueror's Haki, period, and he doesn't want to become Pirate King. So I don't think wanting to become Pirate King is necessarily the requirement, you know? King's disposition is just what we've seen from the characters that flex Conqueror's Haki. You've got that sort of, like, overwhelmingly strong will that, like, when push comes to shove, you don't back down. You impose your will on the situation, right? That's the disposition of a king. It's not really tied to how many followers do you have, or, like, what's your actual, like, do you have a kingdom or an empire or something like that. Those things are irrelevant. Ali H, thanks for being a member for 17 months. Yo, Morj, will we ever get a valid reason why the Gorosei are this strong and didn't do anything to stop Luffy before? I'm just salty that they're this strong. You could not have asked for a better question. Ali H, literally, tomorrow's video is entirely about that. It's entirely about that. Wait for tomorrow's video. I think tomorrow's video is a good one. Brook is the goat says, Morj, you're making up a lot of headcanon to defend Mihawk. Zoro should have at least known Mihawk had it since it's his goal to defeat him. But why would I just don't... When would Zoro have learned that Mihawk has it? Wouldn't Mihawk have had to use it on Zoro? Like, why would Wouldn't Mihawk have had to use it on... Have used it on Zoro for Zoro to have... How would Zoro just magically know that Mihawk has Conqueror's Haki? I don't know. What would be the way? You can't really know character has Conqueror's Haki until a character uses Conqueror's Haki. Hidden Islands' Conquerors is just the highest tier of willpower. Yeah, it's Oda's depiction of basically a larger-than-life sense of willpower. It's just these, you know, a very grandiose depiction of extreme willpower that characters use to fight for their goals, their ambitions, etc. Matt says Zoro never said he didn't have it, he just never said he did. Yeah, I guess that's the other part. Like, I don't think Zoro's ever commented on Mihawk and Conqueror's Haki in general. I think Zoro was just, from what I recall, the quote was literally just that Zoro was surprised that, like, Kaido was mentioning that he himself, like, Zoro had Conqueror's Haki. I don't think Zoro ever brought up Mihawk. Okay, let me catch up on these supers. James Labac, welcome to Pirate King tier. I hope you enjoy the upcoming Pirate King podcast. Hold on, I've got these supers out of order. Let me get them back in order. Give me 1 second, please. Okay. Julian Criswell says, have you played the One Piece trading card game? Very well made. All right, I have played 2 trading card games. Wait, I have a missed membership from BeatGamer99. What's the missed membership from BeatGamer99? Can someone tell me? What was the missed membership from BeatGamer99? While I wait on that, I'll answer this other one. So I've played 2 trading card games before. I've played Yu-Gi-Oh! In college. This is its own whole other story. But me and my group of friends at the time, like, this was like freshman, sophomore year of college, we got into, like, it was literally one of those joke things. It was like, hey, like you know, we just had nothing to do. Is like I don't know, the topic comes up, like, Yu-Gi-Oh! Like, oh, I got some Yu-Gi-Oh! Cards from when I was a kid. Like, it'll be funny if, like, bring them back or whatever, and, like, we play with them. So, like, played with one of my friends' Yu-Gi-Oh! Cards, and then, like, we kind of had a lot of fun, so we did it again and again, and then eventually we all started, like, buying cards online, like, and, like, making decks, and then eventually it snowballed into something that was, like, an embarrassing secret, like, among our friends. Like, we didn't, because, I don't know, like, we were outside of that. Like, basically, the larger social circle and, like, friends that we had, etc., they could never be allowed to know that we played Yu-Gi-Oh! That's basically where it was. Like, we were not trying to expose that was like a guilty pleasure nerdy interest at that point in time. This was also a point in time I would never reveal to anybody that I was into anime, into One Piece, stuff like that. Like that was all stuff like this was college. You're trying to have fun, like be, like that was like a guilty pleasure type thing. All right. So we got pretty into Yu-Gi-Oh. It was a dark secret, and then eventually at a certain point I was realizing I spent like hundreds of dollars on this game. And it's a really bad game. And, like, we all started to realize that Yu-Gi-Oh! Is a deeply, deeply flawed game. So we stopped playing it. And this was after, like, I'd sunk probably, like, a few $100s total into the game. Which, at the time, for me, with not having really real source of income, was a big waste of money. Okay? Then we got into Hearthstone, because that's online, it's casual, and Hearthstone's kind of just, like, it's really a more casual thing. Like, people would play Hearthstone. It was normal to find out somebody else that doesn't look like a giant nerd also plays Hearthstone online. So I got out of Yu-Gi-Oh! I went to Hearthstone, and what do you know? Hearthstone also slowly devolved into this, like, gigantic, obscenely RNG-based, broken-ass game. So I've been pretty burnt on trading card games. I'm not convinced that there are good trading card games out there anymore. And I have a lot of beliefs as to why every trading card game will eventually, eventually turn into complete ass over time. So no, I'm not going to get into the One Piece trading card game, which I doubt is even as polished as something as like Yu-Gi-Oh! And Hearthstone, which aren't polished at all. Do we know what Beat Gamer said? Do we know what Beat Gamer said? No, Yu-Gi-Oh! Is not great. Yu-Gi-Oh! Is a genuinely terrible game. And I had a lot of fun. I played Spellbooks. Spellbooks were my favorite deck to play. It's just over time what the game turned into is absolute garbage. And it's run by an organization that's only goal is to every company's goal is to make money, but Konami is particularly shameless with it. There's a reason that the joke in the Yu-Gi-Oh community is that it's co-money. It's just a terrible game. Terrible game. Never get into Yu-Gi-Oh. Also, the abomination that Yu-Gi-Oh is right now. Like sometimes I watch videos just to see kind of like, oh, what's going on in Yu-Gi-Oh nowadays? What they've done with the format, the rules. It's so trash. The number of squares that get added to the board, so needlessly complex. They added fucking arrows. You guys don't understand. You don't understand how bad Yu-Gi-Oh got. Ali H, thanks for being a Yonko tier member for 17 months. Yo, Morj, will we ever get a valid reason why the gore... No, we covered this. Wait for tomorrow's video. My bad. I was actually looking at Deshaun Comedy, who's been a Pirate King tier member for 2 months, man. Who do you think are the most underrated characters in strength? I think Marco, Garp, Sanji. I think Sanji's got a good argument. No, I think all three. You just named 3 characters that I probably would have come up. Because I've argued Garp, like, you cannot read the Aokiji fight and make any argument whatsoever for Aokiji being stronger. If you read that entire fight, the entire fight from start to finish is every single interaction Garp has with Aokiji, he either gets the better of him or it's a draw. And the entire time, Garp is fighting an entire other Yonko crew at the same time and is handicapped with injuries and is trying to protect the Marines. Like, Oda had to stack every single disadvantage onto Garp just to make Garp lose to Aokiji. And for the record, I had Aokiji above Garp before that fight. But once the fight happened, it was just very clear. It's like, the author could not be any more blatant that Garp is the one that needs to be significantly handicapped in order for Aokiji to beat him. Because if Aokiji's just stronger than Garp, or as strong as Garp, then Oda wouldn't need to have done all that. The fact that Oda did all that is very clearly painting one character as basically needing, like, me and my friends and my entire squad together while ambushing you can take you down. You wouldn't need to do that if it's just Aokiji being stronger than Garp straight up. Like, it wouldn't be necessary whatsoever. Same with Marco. Marco has the best feats of any of the Yonko first mates throughout the story so far. I still think Zoro would beat him with, like, advanced Conqueror's Haki. Zoro showing against Lucci makes me feel a little more embarrassed having this take, but I still like to believe that Zoro would beat Marco. But aside from that, Marco is significantly... Like, Marco's the only character who can actually be kicking, like, King and Queen's ass at the same time, and then people will still come up and say, like, yeah, but I think King could just still beat Marco just based off of vibes. It's like, what? How much more clear... Like, how many more chapters did you need of Marco, like, kicking King's ass for it to be, like, while handling Queen at the same time, for it to be blatant that, like, yeah, Marco's stronger than this guy. You need to see Marco holding off a Yonko and sending her away by himself, because he did that with Big Mom. You need to see Marco stop it, like, dealing with every single admiral at Marineford, because he did that. You need to see Marco, like, stopping Kaido's attacks, like, he did that. Like, Marco has so many better feats than at least King and Katakuri that it's absurd. He has better feats than Zoro so far. But I still think Zoro, just based on the power-up that he got. No, I think Zoro cutting Kaido is a better feat than anything Marco's done. But yeah, anyway. And lastly, I think that Sanji, I do think people tend to underrate Sanji quite a bit. I think Sanji needs to do some more stuff to prove it. But I do think that hypothetically, where his strength, I believe it should be enough to... I think Sanji scales to Yonko first mates. I think he'd have a good shot against Katakuri, against King. Marco has some of the best feats versus Yonkos and Admirals, yet he's compared to Queen. I'm not convinced he won't win versus Zoro. Yeah, sorry, I should have finished the rest of yours. Who compares him to Queen? Marco literally was handling Queen and King at the same time. You would have to literally rip out pages of the story to compare Marco individually to Queen. Santo Joao says Marco didn't deal any damage, to be fair. I read that argument before, and I was kind of, entertaining that. I was like, okay, I could see that kind of making sense. Okay, Marco theoretically couldn't damage King. King certainly couldn't damage Marco whatsoever from what we saw in the fight. He was getting his ass handed to him in literally every single panel. But then somebody pointed out a panel where it's clear that King is bleeding. He is bleeding a little bit from Marco's attacks. So I'm like, okay, so there goes that last argument. I just don't understand how someone can read the Marco versus King and Queen fight and see Marco whooping them chapter after chapter, and there's not a single moment in their battle that on screen that Oda's drawing Marco at a disadvantage. Marco's whooping them, and think that the author's intent is to say that Marco's actually weaker than King here right now. Is that what why would Oda draw any of this if that's his intent? That's the thing I just don't get about some people's to me, it's simple. It's just try and draw. Why is the author drawing this? What's the author's intent? What is he showing here? Just go with what the author's trying to show. I don't know why people try and make up weird, random other shit. It's Oda decided to draw a bunch of panels of Marco beating King and Queen at the same time, but secretly Oda's taking the entire time. I'm just doing this for no real reason. King's way stronger than King would beat Marco's ass. It's why would you be drawing this? What is that what you think that Oda's thinking while he's drawing that fight? Party McFly, thanks for being a Yonko tier member for 11 months. Are you going to keep the poster in your new place? I still have mine in my living room. The new place, the posters and everything like that, they will be being cycled through in the new place. But, I believe. But, I need to do some arranging at the moment. Because, the new place it's different. It's a 1-bedroom. Right now I have a 2-bedroom. Because office space plus bedroom. New place will be a 1-bedroom. So there's going to be some arranging that goes into play here, with me figuring out what the ideal spot is for everything. So the background's going to probably look a lot different. Brooke is the GOAT. Thanks for being a Pirate King tier member for 2 months. Guys, don't be surprised when Mihawk doesn't show Conquerors. Mihawk not having it explains perfectly how Shanks overall is stronger, even though he's better at swordplay. Without it, world's strongest title equals fraud. But, I mean, I would kind of agree with that, except Haki is a part of swordplay. Zoro's going to be using advanced Conqueror. You use Haki in swordsmanship. It's not like Shanks and Mihawk turn off Haki when they have their sword duels, right? Because Haki's it seems like at the highest level, Haki's actually a big, big factor in swordsmanship. So, I mean, do you think that Shanks turned off his Conqueror's Haki when he fought Mihawk? Because Zoro's not going to turn off his Conqueror's Haki when he fights Mihawk, right? I imagine Zoro would be using Ashura when he fights Mihawk. So I don't really buy that personally. I'm going to catch up on all the supers right now. Give me a second. I have to get the members. Just because, again, members go by. For those of you who don't know, anybody that's new, member chats go by really fast. Supers I can always pull up again. So I'm going through the supers right now. Okay. Obi-Wan Kenobi, thanks for the 5. Morj, hey Morj, what's up? Do you think Usopp will achieve his dream next arc in Elbaf? Seems too soon to me, but I don't know. Also on topic of Conquerors, Bonnie's Conqueror Haki. Bonnie Conquerors Haki. Yeah, I think Bonnie could have Conquerors Haki. She fits the mold pretty much perfectly. If you just read her backstory, how she was written as a kid, clearly in the same mold of a young ace, like that sort of headstrong, won't back down from anyone. Bonnie's actually by far the most accomplished. No, I guess Big Mom is the most accomplished child in One Piece, as far as we know. Big Mom's like a freak of nature, though. But, you know, young Bonnie, she's very much written like a young Ace, to some degree like a young Luffy. Like, she just has that same disposition. And then on top of that, just the things that she does. Gorosei Saturn appears. Bonnie is like a 12-year-old kid running up and like stabbing him, taking him on single-handedly. It's like she's much more impressive than anything like Kid Luffy was kind of written to be. Not to say Bonnie is gonna have better Conqueror's Haki than Luffy. I'm just saying that, you know, if like just based on what we've seen, she fits the mold perfectly for the type of character who has a will strong enough to be Conqueror's Haki. You know, Conqueror's Haki user. Fatingo, thanks for the 2. Morj, where can I comment for the Voice of the People? So Voice of the People is available for Pirate King members who are on Patreon, not on YouTube. YouTube and Patreon members have pretty much identical benefits. Everyone gets the same podcasts and everything like that. But because people who are members on YouTube get certain advantages, like they get badges, they get emotes in chat and everything like that, they get some quality of life things. I wanted to even it out. So I was like, okay, for people who are on Patreon, who are paying the same and are the same tier and are supporting in the same way, what's something I can do for them? So I came up with the Voice of the People thing, and that's what you see at the end of chapter reviews. So sorry if that's not the best system. It's just when I started doing memberships, I already had Patreon going for a long time. Then membership started. So it's two things at the same time. I tried my best to make, like, all the other benefits are essentially equal across the board. It's just at the same time I'm like, well, YouTube members, they get the badges, they get the emotes, etc. They get advantages in chat. Let me balance out for my long-time Patreon supporters. So I tried to think of like a couple small little perks that they can get instead. Hope that's not a problem. Like, that's just me trying to balance. I'm sorry if it's not perfect, but that's just what I landed on. You're free to switch from YouTube membership to Patreon, if that's what you're interested in. Not an NPC, thanks for the 10. Hey Morj, I think Egghead is the best arc of the New World. I agree, but do you think the Straw Hats having to flee instead of outright winning after being declared a Yonko crew is a miss? I don't think so, just based on like the amount of effort that's being put into it. So if it was just, for example, Kizaru and the Vice Admirals and like the Buster Call that was being sent over, I'd be like, yeah, the Straw Hat crew should probably kick their ass, right? But they couldn't, like, Kizaru got fucked up. The Vice Admirals are certainly not stopping the Straw Hat crew. Now it's turned into the world government literally pushing the panic button and having to call out everything, right? Like, the Gorosei weren't coming out for Whitebeard and shit, you know? This is, like, the fact that the Gorosei have to be called out, right? Which they haven't had to do in decades and decades. That alone indicates that the Straw Hat Pirates have fucked up shit far beyond what any other Yonko crew has done so far, you know? Basically, Celestial, like, we know for a fact, Celestial Dragons, like, God's Knights, Gorosei, they only get involved when shit has gone past a certain level, right? Like, the Revolutionaries took away the Celestial Dragons' food supply, right? Now the Celestial Dragons are mad. Like, this is actually affecting them. We send in the God's Knights. This is not the Marines' job anymore, right? Fujitora, Green Bull, you guys were there. Like, the Marines didn't stop this shit. Now it's the God's Knights, right? Same thing with the Gorosei. It's like, okay, Kizaru, you take a seat. Marines, you take a seat. We're sending in all 5 of the big guns right now. So I think just what the Straw Hats have pushed them to kind of equates this as like being a Yonko level feat or whatever, or victory. And ultimately, it's just the Straw Hat crew. They don't have their fleet. They don't have any of their allied forces and everything like that. If they alone can basically fuck up Egghead Island, make it so they do run away, but if they allow Vegapunk's message to be released to the world, then the world government clearly loses this interaction, in my opinion, right? It's kind of like, if you look at Enies Lobby, it's very similar. Where Enies Lobby, you can look at, like, the final, what do you call? Let me see, 429, 28. Hello? Here, give me one sec. Yeah, if you look at Enies Lobby, so everyone's running away. Hold on. Yeah, complete defeat, right? So they get on the ship, yada yada yada. Like, they're escaping. What do you call? Hold on, hold on. Okay, Strats got away, etc. And then basically they recap, like, the Marines completely failed. They did not get the Straw Hats. The Strats fucked up any Slobby. No need, it's obvious just by looking at it, this fleet and the island, that this is our, as Aokiji spells it out, this was our complete defeat, right? The Marines lost at any Slobby. Even though the Strats ran away, they win by running away, right? They fought their way out. They couldn't be held down by the Marines. They fucked up the Marines. Like, they declared war on the world government. They screwed with the world government. They did whatever they want on that island. They got away. And then for the Straw Hats, this is our complete this fight is our victory, right? So same thing on Egghead. Like, it's kind of like, imagine if the Whitebeard Pirates had defeated imagine if the Whitebeard Pirates had beaten okay, no, let me rephrase that. Imagine if the Whitebeard Pirates had successfully taken Ace back from the world government, right, at Marineford. They don't wipe out the Marines, but they take Ace back and they get out of there. That fight's their victory, right? The world would be announced that, yeah, the Whitebeard Pirates beat the Marines. So even if you run away at the end, like, if you leave at the end without wiping out all the forces, it's still your victory based on whose objective was accomplished, you know? Sunwreath, thanks for being a Pirate King tier member for 4 months, man. Hi, Morj, just wanted to thank you for all the consistently great content. Thank you very much, man. I've been lurking for a couple years now, and watching your streams has become a regular part of my schedule every week. I say this every time, but it always makes me happy to hear that there's, for people like this is a scheduled part of their routine, their entertainment. I don't know. It's just cool to hear. That's, you know, that I can provide that sort of entertainment for whatever period of time, and be a regular part of some people's lives. So thank you. Anyway, catching up. Catching up. Uber Monk, thanks for the 5. Love your content, bud. You, Tekking, and King of Lightning are easily the GOATs. Tekking was my favorite YouTuber when I was, like, getting into One Piece YouTube. King of Lightning, easily the most entertaining React streamer, in my opinion. I always watch your videos while eating lunch at work. Means a lot to me. Keep it up. That's good to know, because I try to time the videos to come out at lunchtime for most people, you know? Usually noon EST. Zolden, thanks for the 10. Matt Owens also asks that they're really listening to fans, and that if you felt like Usopp was lacking in the first season, that season 2 is going to be very exciting for him, which got me hyped for it. Yeah, because, I mean, the Baroque Works saga, it's the best saga for Usopp overall. It's probably the Water 7 saga is, but the Baroque Works saga is really, really good for Usopp, because there's two story arcs in particular, which is Little Garden, which is essentially an arc where Usopp is close to the main character, I guess, with Luffy, but it's essentially Usopp's arc. He's essentially the main character there. And then in the Baroque Works saga, like in the Alabasta fights, like the actual fights in Alabasta, Usopp's fight is probably the best character writing for any of the fights, the most memorable character writing for any of the fights. He also gets to be the first person who really talks about Luffy, like his commitment to Luffy's dream and being Pirate King among the crew, which I think is really meaningful. And honestly, actually, even in Drum Kingdom, this is low-key one of my favorite little Usopp moments in the story. It's also one of my favorite little Zoro moments in the story, which is Usopp offering to carry Dalton up the mountain. I really like that for some reason. I don't know why. Usopp offering to carry Dalton up the mountain. And then Usopp trying, and then Zoro just picking up Dalton casually and walking away with him. I don't know. I think it's small because neither of these two characters, Zoro or Usopp, are significant in the Drum Kingdom arc, but it's a great moment for both of them. No, it's not a great moment. It's a nice little moment for both of them that makes them both look pretty cool, pretty good. I don't know. Knut Worgen, thanks for the 2. Crackhead theory. Giant robot will stop Emu's beam. I've got a theory on if the beam is stopped, what'll happen there, but I'm not going to share it here. The giant robot doing it would be cool. Maybe a sacrifice there. Stormfox, thanks for the 2. What if the source of the broadcast is the Stella? I don't know. I don't know how the broadcast details work. I know very little about technology in general. I don't know how this stream is broadcasting to any of you. You think it's like the Stella body or something like that? Or like it's coming from his brainwaves or something? Some people said before that maybe his consciousness got uploaded. That's possible. Rodrigo Aliaga, thanks a lot. Buenos noches, Morj. Always great to come home from work just in time to catch the stream. See, for some people, it's good that I'm later, because then they get home. You know what I mean. Also, Egghead is a 10 out of 10 as long as Kuma dies. To be honest, yeah, if Kuma dies, 10 out of 10. If Kuma dies, like, what are the arcs of that One Piece arcs I think are like a 10 out of 10? It's weird to say because it's like, I think Alabasta is a 10 out of 10 for what it is, but Enies Lobby and Marineford are even more 10 out of 10. I don't know. Like Egghead, I think Egghead. Yeah, let me reread Egghead. Because I think overall, I'd say it's the best New World arc, and I'd say the stuff it does well, it does just as well as like pretty much any other arc, if not better. Because like Kuma's backstory, as long as Kuma dies, is probably the best story to me, period, in One Piece character storyline. Yeah, it's tricky. Because I do think that there's a middle section in Egghead that just straight up drags, but then it's like where it leads, like what it gets to is really, 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 really strong, and some of the best in One Piece, period. I don't know. I don't know about. Yeah, maybe it's a 10 out of 10. Let me reread it from start to finish. Let's see how the climax goes. Maybe it's just a 10. We do need to talk about the topic of the stream, which is like how we evaluate it right now. But yeah. Hold on. Manifest Joe, thank you for being a Pirate King tier member for 17 months. Hey Morj, so I read Fire Punch for the first time over the weekend thanks to the constant recommendations I hear from your chat. It was amazing. Would love to hear your takes on it over the break. Dude, I swear to God, yesterday at Sunday, it was a generally free day for me. I fully intended towards the start of the day, I was like, I would like to read Fire Punch today. Because Fire Punch, as far as I looked up, it's like 80-something chapters, and Fujimoto's chapters are tight. They're very short. They go by pretty fast, at least if Chainsaw Man's anything to go by. So I was like, I want to read Fire Punch today. And then I kept putting it off and putting it off. I watched some NBA games. I played some Zelda, and then eventually it was getting towards the end of the day, and I was like, I'm not reading Fire Punch. The window has passed. But I had quite the urge to read Fire Punch yesterday. Maybe I'll do it tonight. Maybe I'll read some of it tonight. Chainsaw Man, I remember I tore through that in like a day and a half, like 2 days. It was such a gripping read. So I'm kind of like, part of the problem is that I'm moving this week. So I'm like, if I start reading Fire Punch tonight, then I know tomorrow I'm just going to be reading all Fire Punch. And then tomorrow's all gone. And there's a lot of small shit that I got to do before the move. So it would be irresponsible. So I don't know. Maybe but I really am in the mood to read a manga right now, and Fire Punch will probably scratch that itch. Let's get the stream likes to 200 real quick. We're almost there. JWP, don't think I didn't see you. Thank you for gifting 5 more memberships, man. I mean, on top of like just last stream. I guess you're just feeling the streams and feeling One Piece right now, man. But I really, really appreciate it. I think we're all feeling the One Piece positivity these days with the way the series is going. Thanks a lot, man. I really, really appreciate it. Always a pleasure when you come through the streams. And, I know everybody in stream is always happy when you come through and do this. Teeping Tom, Silhouette, Iced Empire, and Goldie Ace, and Kino the Far. Gifted Kino the Far. Yeah, everybody say thanks to JWP. Really, really appreciate it. Let me continue going through these real quick. Supers. Dick so small, I piss on my balls. Thanks for the 5. There's like 4 different lines from the manga itself, including in Garp vs. Kuzan, that say when you feel doubt or guilt, you're weakened. Yeah, I mean, that's definitely, like, you can pull up those lines, but at the same time, Garp was definitely also holding back against Kuzan, because that's, like, we know Garp, like, you can say that Aokiji was weakened, right, in terms of, like, maybe he wasn't, like, maybe a little bit like Kizaru, like, maybe not 100% all in mentally in the fight, but Garp was treating him with literal kid gloves. He did not use Galaxy Impact once. He did not use, like, the Galaxy Divide once. He hit him with the baby moves. Like, literally. Like, his first move was just tossing him down to the sea so he could take care of the rest of the Blackbeard pirates. Like, you're talking about Aokiji. Oh, well, he was kind of mentally nerfed or whatever. Garp literally had a hole ripped through his stomach. Like, please tell me what you think curbs performance more. Do you think that... Oh, if I'm mentally, like, I don't want to, like, I'm a little divided on if I want to hurt my friend. Or if you had to fight with a sword that's ripped through your fucking stomach. while 10 other people also with superpowers try and attack you at the same time. Like the like, do you know how ridiculous it is to try and compare like what Garp was going through to Aokiji being a little bit of like, hey, yeah, I don't know, I don't want to, I'm a little divided. Like, seriously, like, what's a bigger handicap? Garp should have been in the fucking hospital. Like, and Garp wasn't using any of his strongest moves, like, whatsoever on Aokiji. And at the end of the day, even if you want to say, like, Aokiji, you know, he's mentally maybe not 100% there, we literally saw that Garp was too fast for Aokiji to even follow. That's not something mental or whatever. You can go back and look at the panels. Garp, like, realizes that he has to go save Kobe, so he moves at super speed or whatever. He blitzes, goes past Aokiji. We see Aokiji as a surprise symbol, right? Surprise, he's not prepared for that. He can't react to that. That's got nothing to do with, like pulling your punches a little bit or something like that. That's literally like you can either follow it or not follow it. Garp is faster than Aokiji can follow, from what we saw. That's got nothing to do with, like, your fucking brain, like, the speed at which you can process something doesn't change based on, you know, if you want to, like if you like if you're like, whatever you want to say, like bloodlusted or something like that. Like, that's just straight up like, can you follow this or not? Is it too fast for you or not? Garp is too fast for Aokiji. And then the bigger thing, like, to me, the biggest thing that we kind of saw with Garp Aokiji is that Aokiji's ice doesn't work on Garp. It doesn't work on Haki. To me, that means that, like, what more do you really want to, I don't really know what else there is to really argue there, because even if at the end of the day you think they're about even, then Garp's just proven to be a bad matchup because Aokiji straight up can't freeze his Haki. Anyway, let's keep going. Silhouette says mental effects Haki. What do you mean? But the thing is, Aokiji has never shown Haki anywhere close to Garp. So we already know that if you're talking about Haki to Haki, Garp's way above him, right? Never even close to Garp, right? Aokiji, like, you think if Aokiji's mentally there, he's going to be doing Galaxy Impact or Galaxy Divide? No, like, we've seen him at Marineford, we've seen him in other contexts. He's not that type of Haki user. His main strength has always been, like, you know, he's a competent Haki user, a good Haki user. His ice doesn't work on Garp, though. We already saw that. Like, that's not going to change based on mental. He can't freeze Haki. Tom Thompson says I skipped over some supers. I'm catching him. I'm going through them one at a time. Samuel Hart, thanks for the 2. Oh, wait, no, I skipped someone right here. David Magana, do you think Luffy will come to understand what Dragon is fighting for as well as Garp motivations? I don't think so. I think Luffy usually, he's a little vague on a lot of that shit. I think he always comes to understand. His thing is more so like he'll understand whether someone's coming from a good place or not coming from a good place. I think that's always been Luffy's thing. Like, he never understood Nami's motivations for why Arlong Park needed to be free. He just understood that Nami's a good person, that she doesn't want to be doing the stuff that she's doing, and that it's the right thing to fight to help her, you know? I'm sure Dragon's motivations are somewhat more complicated than Luffy's going to be able to process. Oh, Tom, thanks for the 5. Some people I forgot to include in the Gear 5th Luffy beat them tier list. Prime Rayleigh, Prime Garp, and Rocks. I was talking, I think, more so about today. No, I included Prime Roger and shit. Also, Fuji is the best opponent for Mihawk pre-Zoro. I don't want to see Fujitora get fucked up, though. I think Mihawk should fuck him up, and I don't want to see Fujitora get fucked up. I'd like to see Fujitora, I don't know. Let's throw Green Bull to Mihawk. Let's let Mihawk take care of Green Bull. I don't know. I feel like that wouldn't be that exciting, though, because people don't respect Green Bull as is. Prime Rayleigh, Prime Garp, and Rocks. I feel like those all fall under the same category as... Well, Prime Rayleigh is not going to be as strong as Prime Garp, Prime Roger, Prime Whitebeard, Prime Rocks. Prime Garp, Prime Roger, I put them in the same category as Prime Roger... Like, Prime Garp, Prime Rocks, I put them in the same category as Prime Roger and Whitebeard. So whatever we rated those as is what it is. Rayleigh, Prime Rayleigh is a good question. I still feel like Prime Rayleigh is too hard to gauge, man. Prime Rayleigh is too hard to gauge. I'd say that's like a maybe. Like, maybe can beat Gear 5th Luffy, maybe not. It's a maybe. In between. Moving on. Samuel Hart, thanks for the 2. I agree, but is Marco mid-diffing Lucci, lol? You know what's something funny that nobody brings up? Like, so everybody brings up... Also, let's get the stream likes to 200. We're almost there. Varp TM says Kuzan's endurance is still better than old Garp's and would outlast him. See, I just don't know what that's based off of, though. Like, because that's just arbitrary. Like, how do we know that... What was shown in the fight that indicates that? You know? Because otherwise you can just claim that about anything. You know? Like, to me, I'm going by... What was shown in the fight was that Oda decided that for these guys to believably beat Garp, I need to heavily handicap the shit out of Garp. I don't know. Like, why include the fact that, like, I don't get it. Like, because people use this logic with, like, Kaido and the rooftop fight. It's like, no, like everyone will happily bring up, like, you know, Luffy didn't beat Kaido alone. It was like a 15v1, and like Kaido took all this damage from other characters and everything like that. And like Oda wrote it this way to make sure that like it's believable for Kaido to go down. But with Garp versus Aokiji, it's like, dude, it was the entire Yonko crew at once, and Garp clearly got handicapped, and he had to actually, like, he couldn't even focus on them because half the fight he was trying to save his Marines from being killed, right? Like, part of it, they weren't even targeting him. They were going after his Marines, so he had to divert his attention to go save Kobe's ass, like, multiple times. So to me, it's just very selective reasoning, where I personally feel as though people decided before the fight that Aokiji should be above Garp because of endurance. Then the fight plays out. Literally nothing suggests that Aokiji is above Garp over the course of the fight. There's not a single panel in that fight that suggests that Aokiji is supposed to be portrayed above Garp. And then at the end of the fight, people are like, well, even if it was 1v1, it would just be because of endurance. Garp would just lose. It's like, what? Why can't you use new information to challenge your pre-existing beliefs? Because again, if you look back at my top 30 list, I had Aokiji above Garp because of endurance. I was like, I think fighting mano a mano, Garp, Aokiji is probably a wash, but just because of age, Aokiji would take it. I'm reading the fight, I'm like, holy shit, mano a mano, Aokiji gets spanked easily, and then, like, repeatedly. You can't even follow the dude. And Oda has to handicap Garp like a million different ways just for it to be believable for an entire Yonko crew plus Aokiji to eventually take him down, while Garp is trying to just focus on saving the people that he came up to the island with. So, I don't know. I think it's a huge stretch to just say, well, endurance, because it's just like, well, then we're not actually looking at what's being shown in the story. You're just using your preconceived notion of what the character should be to like, maintain a claim that the story doesn't support. Samuel Hart says, I agree, but is Marco mid-diffing Lucci, lol? Okay, so one thing that I thought is funny, which I still... Zoro obviously beat Lucci, but, like, you know how we talk a lot about how, like, Zoro didn't use his best stuff? Like, you know, he didn't seemingly use Advanced Conqueror's Haki to Lian, he didn't use Ashura. Am I crazy, or does that same logic apply to Lucci, right? Because, like... Lucci didn't use his Rokugan. Right? I mean, that's Lucci's actual... Like, Shigan is... Like, the fight ended when Zoro pulls out Advanced Conqueror's Haki. Lucci's using Shigan. But, I don't know, like... like, Lucci didn't use his Rokugan. And, like, we all know that Rokugan's, like, Lucci's big, like, ace card, like, his trump card, right? I'm just saying. I'm just saying. I don't know. Mordioni says Aokiji did not want to destroy Pirate Island, so he was holding back. No, but the thing is, we were already... like, it doesn't... Like, Aokiji could freeze the whole island, and it wouldn't matter. Because Garp can't be frozen. That's already established. That's established at the start of the fight. To me, that panel pretty much said a lot, which is just... Yeah, Garp's Haki, you can't freeze it with ice. So, it works the same way as, like, Whitebeard's Gura Gura no Mi. So, in that case, it's just hand-to-hand. Aokiji's not beating Garp hand-to-hand. He's not even going to be close. Alright, anyway. I'm just saying... Santo Choao says maybe it's not his strongest anymore. I mean, it's the move that he used in conjunction with Luffy when they're trying to... Like, it's his max damage move that he was trying to use to take out the Pacifista or the Seraphim with Luffy. I'm just saying. I just think it's kind of funny. Like, why do we give that to... Are you really going to say that, like, Lucci throwing a bunch of Shigan, which was, like, a basic move that he did pre-time, like, we already know from the fight with Lucci that him throwing a bunch of Shigan is not his best move. Like, he did that against Luffy, but his trump card was Rokugan. That doesn't seem to have changed post-time skip. Rokugan still seems like his go-to max damage output thing. So I'm just saying, like, you can make the same argument for Lucci. Obviously Zoro won, and obviously Zoro has more in the bag, but I just think it's funny that, like, you know, we make certain arguments for Zoro that yeah, Marco would mid-diff Lucci. I don't think Lucci can literally hurt Marco. African Lays, thanks for the 5. Hi Morj, can't stay for long. I have midterms this week. I'm sad about the 3-week break, but I'm looking forward to the Pirate King podcast and future streams. I'm gonna try and make this break as entertaining as possible. I'm trying to think of variety stuff that we'll be doing on Fridays. Yeah. Loud Waffle says he was probably Rokugunning off screen. Maybe. I don't know. I'm still gonna call Zoro versus Lucci a mid-hot. You know what? I'm gonna wait till we see Zoro against a Gorosei, because if Zoro fights the Gorosei and he starts just using Advanced Conqueror's Haki or Asha from the start, and he does that for like multiple chapters or something, I'll be like, yeah, he mid-diff Lucci. At the moment, I'm like mid-ish diffed Lucci, mid-ish, but leaning towards a little bit more high than normal mid. I don't know. It definitely wasn't like one of Zoro's hardest fights, though. I'm definitely not saying that. Dick so small, I piss on my balls, thanks for the 5. I hope that Vegapunk's message is the vehicle for Kizaru's face turn, which I also think will be Kuma's memories of God Valley recorded from the bubble. Kuma's memories of God Valley would be crazy. That'd be insane. But I do believe I'm on board with the Kizaru changing after Gear 5th, or it's not Gear 5th, the Vegapunk message stuff. So I'm reading the above comment. Getty G-Man, thanks for the 2. Do you think Gear 5th would have different versions? No, because I think Gear 5th is freedom, right? So it's whatever he chooses to be is what he can be, right? So he doesn't need different versions. He can be giant mode if he wants. He can be, well, that's the main one we saw. But you know what I mean? Like, he can be what he wants to be. Dick so small, I piss on my balls. Thank you again. It'd be a crazy plot twist if the Iron Giant was programmed or reprogrammed to attack Joy Boy, which is why it reacts to the heartbeat. Oh, shit. No. Don't even say that. That shit shouldn't happen. Because, like, fuck, that'd be sad as fuck. It would kind of be similar to maybe... I'm sure whatever the Iron Giant situation is, it's going to have some strong parallels to Kuma's situation. So I'm really curious as how to have that went down. T Lungu 96, thanks for the 5. Happy you mentioned the Dalton Usopp Zoro moment. Just reread that the other day and it was so wholesome. Yeah, it was like a really cute, just little wholesome scene. I don't know. For some reason, I find it really badass, like Zoro just putting Dalton casually on his back, because like Dalton's this huge character. Just putting Dalton over his shoulder and being like, all right, I'm gonna walk up the mountain. Which way's the mountain? And it's off the back of, like, you know, Usopp's more like, he only does it because Usopp puts himself forward like that, which is really a big step for Usopp. You know, Usopp and Zoro have some underrated moments together. Usopp and Zoro have some of my favorite interactions in the series because they're total opposites in their approach to life, right? Like Luffy and Usopp have a ton of overlap. Obviously, Luffy's a, you know, Conqueror's Haki, like he's very driven, very like won't back down, etc. But at the same time, like, Luffy's goofy and light and soft and silly in many ways, right? Zoro is this written to be this like ideal figure of just like determination, conviction, constant sort of mental discipline and focus, right? Bravery, all of this stuff, right? And Usopp is the total opposite end of the spectrum. He's a normal fucking human being with flaws, fears, like every situation, like situations that Zoro's just like, all right, we've got this gigantic fucking problem. The solution is I gotta go straight up, take it head on, chop it up, like the Ore situation or something, right? Usopp's is like, what if we didn't do that, and what if we like ran away, did something totally different, or left it up to somebody else to deal with? I like their interaction so much because, you know, Zoro does respect Usopp but he never lets Usopp fall to like a lower standard, kind of, right? We saw that in a lot of Water 7 and Islabi. He was even like, yeah, we got to leave Usopp behind because look, Usopp's going to be able to take care of himself. Like, we've all gotten stronger over time. He should be able to handle himself, like, while Usopp was left behind during the whole Enislabi initial entry point, right? I like a lot of their interactions because they're just such different characters, but, you know, they're still friends, and Zoro doesn't change his standards for Usopp. And he's always really, like, he always connects well when Usopp does live up to that sort of standard in a way. And I think that the Dalton moment is a great representation of that, and just that, like, Zoro wasn't going to help out Dalton himself because he didn't give a fuck, but then seeing Usopp, who's not physically strong or whatever, but still volunteer to take this huge task of carrying Dalton up the mountain, like, that that has an impact on Zoro because that's the type of language that he speaks and he respects. And Zoro, who can do that very easily, now steps up and is like, oh, I'll just do it. I don't know. I like that interaction quite a bit. Anyway. Marcel Beans, thanks for the 10. Kuma sacrificed his whole life for other people, so him at the near end of his life is not sacrificing himself, but recognizing the worth of his life, and the others just want him to live would be better. I have a million reasons for why that wouldn't be the case. I mean, for why that would devalue a lot of how he was framed beforehand. Well, I get where you're coming from, which is just like, well, he deserves a happily ever after because he sacrificed so much. But if that is written to be the case, then everything that he sacrificed wasn't actually a sacrifice, right? He ultimately did he didn't actually end up giving up those things in the permanent manner that the weight associated with them initially was presented as. That's the short version, and if that's not satisfactory, the longer version will come if we ever get to the point where it needs to be talked about, but I don't think that's the case. The simpler way I can say it is basically like pretty much all sacrifices that characters make in any movie, story, anime, manga, etc. ever can be just casually reversed with that same sort of logic, but you don't, because that's what provides weight and actual meaning to storytelling and the ideas behind the decisions that characters make and what they represent. Rock Nation Brunch, thanks for the 5. Harking back to earlier, Zoro saying he can't imagine Mihawk following someone else in 1056 indicated to me that Mihawk has the qualities of king. Yeah, so Zoro did know about Conqueror's Haki. I think the Kaido comment was just that Zoro didn't realize that he himself had Conqueror's Haki. Visual Knight, thank you for the 5. Ironically, I feel like after the big Gorosei reveal that Blackbeard is the final villain, since he's more mysterious at this point. I think Emu is still more mysterious than Blackbeard. The Gorosei are just the subordinates, you know? Because to me, I'm like, Blackbeard himself and his final goals are more mysterious, but if I'm comparing like Shiryu and the bums that were getting tossed around like children by Garp versus the Gorosei right now, I think the Gorosei feel more final endgame villainy to me personally. Also, let's get the stream likes up to 300 real quick, and then we're going to get into our actual topic of like evaluating Egghead so far, how we feel about it. JP, thank you for the 10. Wondering if the S-Bear being returned due to not behaving line will ever come back in a bigger way, or if it was just to establish it retains some aspect of Kuma that doesn't obey or whatever. I completely forgot about that, to be honest. I completely forgot about that. Maybe I should go back and reread this after that after this stream just to see. Completely forgot about that. Maybe foreshadowing some shit. I do wonder what role S-Bear could possibly play, and just in general where the Seraphim are kind of going. Umer Ula, thanks for the 10. Aokiji went 10 days with Akainu. His endurance is crazy. Yeah, I 100% get it. He has crazy endurance, but that doesn't mean like if you're just getting rolled over by a character 1v1, like that doesn't, you can't magically assume that, well, he'll just be able to last 10 days being Garp's punching bag, you know? Because even after just even after Garp's just initial attack, Aokiji did have, like, he was bloodied up and everything like that. And that was after one move by Garp. Sorry, reversing the words. Even after Garp's initial attack, just, like, throwing Aokiji down with the blue hole move, like, Aokiji came up looking somewhat, you know, a little bit bloodied and stuff. A little bit bloodied and bruised, and that's just one attack. So it's like, you can't just take 10, because by that logic, it's like, well, could Aokiji beat Shanks? Oh, well, Aokiji's endurance, 10 days. It's like, Yeah, but why? What if Shanks just beats him before that? What if it doesn't take 10 days for Shanks to beat him? You know, Aokiji versus Luffy. Yeah, Aokiji has 10 days. I mean, that is an argument that you can make, but it also gets in the way of just, by that logic, any character that hasn't shown similar endurance, Aokiji just beats them because he can survive being a punching bag for 10 days. Akainu versus Aokiji, we can assume that they're like evenly matched in their abilities, which is why you're able to go 10 days. But if you're up against an opponent that's just trashing you the entire time, that doesn't mean you're magically going to last 10 days against them as well. Garp doesn't have to last 10 days. So, Umair Ula, you're not getting Garp doesn't have to last 10 days. You don't need to be able to last 10 days to beat Aokiji. If you can win the fight faster than that, you're fine. You're assuming that basically Aokiji can just handle being punched by Garp over and over and over again, right? To me, like I'm making an assumption just based on what we saw. Aokiji was taking damage from the few interaction, like even from the first interaction he had with Garp, and Garp wasn't even using any of his strongest moves. And Garp, we don't know what his endurance is like, but he was holding out against the entire Blackbeard Pirates with a giant hole through his stomach, and Aokiji at the same time. He's still no scrub in that department. Endurance is not the only. The drunk Ronin says he was not getting rolled over by Garp. Come on, Morj, let's not exaggerate now. You can look through that fight, man. There's literally only one moment where, like, the only interaction is when they punch each other, that Aokiji looks somewhat on par with Garp, but aside from that, Garp's basically handling him while handling everybody else at the same time. You don't need to last 10 days. Again, by that logic, Luffy will never be able to beat Aokiji because I don't think Luffy will ever be able to keep Gear 5th up for 10 days, you know? Like, no matter how strong Luffy gets at the end of the series, I doubt even then Luffy would be able to hold Gear 5th for 10 days, therefore he can't beat Aokiji. That makes no fucking sense. You can end a fight faster than 10 days just because this character's max endurance goes 10 days against another evenly matched character. Against Garp, it's not evenly matched because Garp is just, like, Haki-wise, physical capability-wise, probably in every category aside from endurance, stronger than Aokiji. Umirula says, every attack Garp hit Aokiji with didn't wound him and Aokiji was unfazed. But Garp was using kid gloves. We literally saw he didn't use Galaxy Impact, didn't use Galaxy Divide. I'm always confused by people saying Aokiji was holding back when by every measure of the fight, Garp was literally holding back, right? Like literally not using any of the moves that he could use on Aokiji to actually damage his disciple. And Garp had a hole through his stomach. It's like the level of handicap is so vastly different. All right. Let's keep going. Aziz says, what do you think about Sanji's leadership this arc? Standard. Sanji usually, like, he'll take this sort of a role in other arcs. I don't think this is anything crazy. We've seen this before. Brooke is the GOAT, thanks a lot. Facts. When having a take, you need to use the manga as reference, otherwise you have no case. Mihawk Admirals, Dragon fans, be reading Two Piece, Kaido, greater. No, I disagree with your final conclusion, but I do agree that you need to use the manga. Deshaun Comedy, thanks for the 2. You need antenna to broadcast. Egghead Apple is one. That's a possibility. Okay, hold on. Let me pull up some stuff now. Pulling up Microsoft Paint. All right. I'm going to go to the bathroom real quick, and then I'll be right back, and we'll be doing the Egghead evaluation. All right. All right. All right. Hello? Okay. Hello, hello. We good to go? All right. We're going to be evaluating Egghead. Thomas says, if Mihawk were stronger than Kaido, the scale of the One Piece world would be massively skewed. I can't imagine... I don't know how Kaido would beat Mihawk, just based off... Like, you take one attack from Zoro, and you're scarred for life. Like, what the fuck is he going to do against Mihawk? Remember, Kaido was never stated to be the world's strongest creature. It was literally just people believe him to be the world's strongest creature. And the One Piece public is notoriously wrong about most situations. Like, the One Piece public... the One Piece public literally thinks... they don't even fucking know that the Gorosei are, like, demonic monsters. They don't know that Emu exists. They don't know... Like, they don't know how Dragon fights. Like, who the fuck even knows how Dragon fights? The One Piece public is, like, one of the most misinformed... Like... Think about, like, all the... Has there ever been a time in the history of One Piece that, like, a rumor that is generally believed by the One Piece public has actually been true? If anything, it's literally always been false. From, like, their views on the Marines, to the idea of Robin being this demonic child that could defeat everybody at 8 years old. The One Piece public, their opinion has basically zero bearing when you're comparing to actually, like, what characters can do. Like, we look back through Kaido's history, what's the first thing that we see of him happening? Getting fucked up by a swordsman, Odin. And it's like, okay, and Odin, we can assume, is nowhere near Mihawk's level. And it's like, okay, well, what if Kaido got a lot stronger since then? Okay, we fast forward to today. Mihawk's fucking disciple, with every single bone in his body broken, gives Kaido another fucking permanent scar for life. I can't imagine Mihawk losing to Kaido. I don't know how it would happen. What would be the situation? Like... I'm just looking at the story. I'm like, so if Zoro, with every single bone in his body broken, using an ability that he barely has a grasp on, scars Kaido for life permanently, what the fuck is Kaido doing to Mihawk? I don't even know. Alright, let's move it along. Uber Monk says, Mihawk being stronger than Kaido is wild? Why? Like, we're hitting endgame. This is just natural storytelling progression in any anime and manga. Endgame characters... Top tier endgame characters are gonna outscale the previous characters, you know? I don't know what I'm typing here. Alright. Egghead, Island, Arc, evaluations. Keep in mind, if I don't know who was part of the community at Marine during Marine Ford, but if you were involved in One Piece discussion at that point in time, suggesting that any character was above Marineford Whitebeard after Marineford ended was kind of wild. Like, now most people are kind of like, yeah, Kaido was, like, or a lot of people are kind of on board, like, yeah, Whitebeard might not have been, like, literally the strongest at the time of Marineford because of heart attacks and stuff like that, not being in full health. But at the time, most people were just like, no, of course Whitebeard is the strongest of the 4 Yonko. It just is. Like, you learn more information as the story goes. Okay. Fuck, what the fuck happened? Remember, the author is always going to be incentivized to gas up the current characters and current situation. Because that's what makes the story more exciting. Alright. Okay. Wait, let me make a new thing for this. What the fuck? Alright, whatever. Okay. Alright. Zane Ali says Kaido beats Mihawk. Zoro did no damage to Kaido. What? I don't even know how to respond to that because that's just, you didn't read the story then. Brooke is the goat says Morj didn't know you're insecure and ban people who oppose your opinions. What? I've never been. The only person I've ever physically banned is Oof. Who? I've not banned anybody. There's no... I've not banned a single person. What are you talking about? I see Wrench Dodger banning some people, but I don't know what he's banning people for. I've literally, like, this is genuinely something that I don't know, I pride myself on, in that I don't think I've ever banned anybody. Like, I think I've never personally banned or asked for anybody in stream to ever be banned for having a different opinion, or even being insulting of me, which is, I don't know, something that I know a lot of people do ban people for. But, like, I don't mind that usually. I don't know. I've definitely asked for people to be banned if, like, if they're saying certain, like, I think it's just a given that if you're saying, like, certain, maybe, like, things that are not okay, racist stuff, like, you guys know that's a different category, right? But, like, just saying anything personal about me or my opinions or One Piece related, I've never asked for anybody to be banned. That's crazy. Except for Oof, but that was an accident. All right. Josh just says, Morj, just ignore the chat for a few minutes. Yeah, let's get through this. Okay. So, big surprise, I did not come into this with a plan. Timed out, not banned. I don't even know the difference. I don't know how to time people out. Wait, yes I do. Hold on. Let me see what I can time out. Put user in timeout. I don't know. What's the difference between... Whatever. It doesn't matter. Okay. Egghead Island arc evaluations. How do we want to do this? You can say themes. The problem is that there's a lot that we can't really talk about just yet because we have to see it play out. Themes, character writing, plot/arc structure. I want to go into JP, thanks for the 10. Kaido would probably have to rely on future sight and speed and avoid getting slashed by Mihawk. Now, would he do that in character when he just stood and took almost every attack aimed at him? No idea. I think, again, here's the thing. I don't think that works against in the Zoro context, because Kaido was already fully intent on like, I've seen people say Kaido was holding back, etc., whatever, but that's fundamentally not true when it comes to the Zoro situation, because it was established multiple times. I could go through the panels right now. It was established multiple times that Kaido senses Oden's Haki coming from Enma and does not fucking want to get hit by Enma. You can say that Kaido was, like, willing to tank a bunch of attacks or whatever on the roof. He was never okay with taking attacks from Enma. He specifically was like, I'm not getting hit by that shit. So this is the first time he gets cut. Before that, what do we have? Right here. One sword style. What's that? Look out, Kaido. That's no ordinary sword. Kaido realizes that's no ordinary sword. Kaido has to dodge. Right? The moment this is established, you don't get, like, the discussion of, like, well, Kaido didn't realize how bad it would be, or, like, Kaido is holding back, or, like, sandbagging or something like that. That's gone, because it's established that through the first several, like, through these first 10 chapters on the roof, there's one character specifically, even more so than Luffy, that Kaido does not want to get hit by, and that is Zoro with Enma, because it's giving Kaido fucking PTSD of Oden. You cannot say that Kaido is sandbagging or whatever when he's thinking about Oden and the Haki that's coming from, like, the Oden Haki, you know? Like, it's made very fucking clear that that's some shit that he takes seriously and is 100% not looking to get hit by, you know? Alright. We're gonna keep going. Like, if you want to say, like, oh, Kaido was not concerned about getting hit by Kid, or by Law, or by Killer, and even by Luffy. Like, Kaido was fine tanking a lot of attacks by Luffy, but it's explicitly made fairly clear that when it comes to Oden and Enma, he was not trying to fuck with that. He did not want to get hit by that shit. He did not think that that was going to be okay. Okay. Moving along. Kenny says Kaido is drunk for a bit of the fight dog. Good. That makes him stronger, right? Isn't that what people say? Drunk Kaido is at his best. Brank's Drums of Liberation says, so Zoro is stronger than Luffy? Kaido was more concerned about getting hit, not by the end of the arc, but in terms of, like, Luffy faster than Zoro, better observation Haki. Like, this is all at the start of the rooftop. When the rooftop battle begins, Luffy's obviously faster than Zoro, better observation Haki, like just all around a better fighter than Zoro. But because Zoro had Enma, he was getting into his groove with all that stuff. It's made very clear that Kaido and Big Mom are pretty much they're far more concerned specifically about getting hit by Zoro than they are by Luffy or the other supernova. That is made very clear. I suggest you reread through the rooftop battle again, but that is pretty explicit, right? Obviously, once Luffy unlocks Advanced Conqueror's Haki himself, it's a different game. I'm not trying to scale Luffy to Zoro there. I'm just saying when the rooftop started, Zoro was the only one that they were kind of like, well, we don't want to get hit by that attack. We don't want to get hit by this guy's moves. That was made very, very clear. I don't really know what else. There's not much I need to argue for that because it's in the manga. It's made explicitly clear by both characters. So, there's no art. Like, you can say, well, Mihawk wouldn't have hit Kaido. If Zoro can hit Kaido, then Mihawk can hit Kaido. Because Kaido was already explicitly trying to not get hit by Zoro. Like, that was already his intent. He was not trying to get hit by Zoro. Still got hit by Zoro. Mihawk is basically just a much better version of Zoro that can probably do shit like Ashura, but, not just, like, for more than one move, Brook is the GOAT says, and it's because of Oden's Haki, not because of Zoro himself. I'm not concerned about that shit. We're talking about Mihawk right now, right? So the only thing I'm establishing right here is, factually, was Kaido sandbagging against Zoro? No. Did Kaido ever want to get hit by any of Zoro's moves? No, very explicitly not. He was concerned about that. Was Kaido taking Zoro's attack seriously? Yes. All of this is made blatantly, like, word for word clear in the story by both Kaido and Big Mom, right? So, if despite all that, Zoro, with all of his bones broken, can still cut Kaido and leave a permanent scar on him and get the better of him with one interaction, right? What the fuck is Kaido gonna do again? How could you possibly imagine Kaido beating Mihawk if he can only where does that come from? Unless you think that Ashura Zoro is already stronger than Mihawk, then that's a discussion. I personally don't think so. I think Mihawk would still be above Ashura Zoro with every bone in his body broken, right? I think Mihawk scales above no bone Zoro with Ashura. Personally, that's my opinion. So by basic, I don't know. I don't think it's. I have no idea why it would be crazy. You can just read the manga. Why would it be crazy to think that if Zoro, with every bone in his body broken, and Kaido definitely not trying to get hit, as was made very, 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 very clear in the story, still got permanently scarred from one attack by Zoro, what the fuck's he going to do against a fresh Mihawk, who can definitely do that for a lot longer, a lot more sustained period of time than Zoro can? Anyway, Angel Reeds, thanks for the 5. Since 56, Gomu, is Luffy's number, can 16 be Imu's number? I is 1, Mu equals 6. I don't know enough about Japanese to know about that shit. I'm sorry. I just don't know. Umir Ula, thanks for the 5. Agree to disagree on Aokiji. Do you think Blackbeard is the least skilled fighter from the top tiers? He would be much stronger if his fight IQ was better. Blackbeard's overall IQ is very high. I do think he's probably the least polished fighter of the top tiers that we've seen because, when it comes to advanced Haki stuff, I don't think we've really seen it confirmed. So, yeah, but I do wonder if Blackbeard by the end of the story will just be so jacked up on Devil Fruit shit that he'll be good enough. We saw that he can, do armament coding and everything. He defended himself against the Seraphim. But Conqueror's Haki, Advanced Observation Haki, I don't know. Rodrigo Aliaga, thanks a lot. But can Mihawk take a maxed out Thunder Bagua? That's true. I don't know. Can Mihawk take out a maxed out Thunder Bagua? We know from the interaction that Zoro and Kaido had that, at least it looked like, Zoro deflected Kaido's club and then hit Kaido. But if you're saying pure clash of power, could Mihawk overpower Kaido? I don't know. I'm just looking at the Zoro. To me, the only indication of how there's only two instances that give me an image of how Kaido versus Mihawk would hypothetically go. One is him versus Oden. We know how that goes. Even if you say, well, Kaido he got way stronger. Hypothetically, we don't know how much stronger, he just got way stronger. He wouldn't lose to Oden again. Okay, let's pretend that's the case. Then versus Zoro. That's the only other time we get an interaction. Kaido loses that interaction. Mihawk is clearly stronger than that version of Zoro. And he would be able to do a lot more than just one attack because he wouldn't be starting the fight with every bone in his body broken. So to me, it's like, yeah, could Mihawk take the Thunder Bagua? I don't know. Would he take the Thunder Bagua? Like, would that happen in the fight? I don't know. I just judge it off of the Zoro versus Kaido fight. To me, it's just like, yeah, you replace that with a dude who can actually just keep going and is probably stronger than Zoro. I don't see why Kaido wins. Okay. Because then we can get into hypotheticals all day. I'm just looking at what's actually written, which is, you know, Kaido lost the interaction to Zoro. We know Mihawk is stronger than that version of Zoro. And we know that Mihawk would be able to do more than one attack. Alright, let's keep going. Well, 1 second. Okay. We could just do it on this. Themes, character writing, plot / arc structure, and then go in depth into each of these things. If there's more categories that you guys want to discuss, we can discuss that. I could do general, drama, general drama, which is a broader category but covers things like suspense, tension, build up, climax, etc. That's a little different from plot and arc structure. Because you can combine all. It depends how you want to do a fully, like, how fully fleshed out you want to go. Because this does play into this. Themes, character writing, plot / arc structure. Yeah, I'll make it separate for the sake of this. Drama / suspense / build up / climax. Yeah, well, let's do these for the broad things. Rodrigo Aliaga says, Morj, do you think Shanks / Mihawk is Pirate King level? No. Kefka Palazzo 1 says, what about art? I'm gonna be honest, I don't really rate One Piece on art anymore. Because it's just like, yeah, we'll get some, like, amazing depictions once in a while. Like the Gorosei panel recently. But if I'm bluntly rating Egghead Island's art overall compared to the entirety of One Piece, like especially pre-time skip art, where there was just a lot more space, a lot less clutter. Oda took more time with drawing and detailing things. Composition was just much more clear. Then I'd be like, well, Egghead Island overall would be like a 4 out of 10 or something like that in terms of art. Like, I just don't rate I don't know. I don't rate One Piece on the art as much anymore because it's just like, again, I think Oda's peak art skill is higher now. So when he gets time to do when he invests time into doing something like the Gorosei spread, it's going to be some of the best stuff he's ever done. But chapter to chapter, the vast, like 98% of the time, the artwork is going to be markedly worse than what it once was. Mano21, thanks for the 5. I think you're extrapolating too much with Zoro's Ashura. Luffy's Kong Gun floored Kaido in 1003, and Supreme Kong Gun couldn't keep Kaido down. Yeah, but Zoro permanently damaged him forever. And that's also, like, it's two different things, which is, one, you have to keep in mind that this is the one Zoro damaged him forever, right? This was already built up as being a big deal in the story. You can't downplay that, the permanent scar, because the story itself goes out of its way to mention throughout the Wano arc how big of a deal it is that Kaido has only been scarred once, right? You can't downplay that. The scar is a big deal. Like, permanently getting, like, like, that's like downplaying what Akainu did to Luffy, or the fact that, like, Blackbeard permanently scarred Shanks, or the fact that Whitebeard's scar aches from a certain legendary battle. Scars throughout, like, you would have to throw away your brain, basically, to pretend that scars in One Piece aren't a huge fucking deal since, like, fucking chapter 1, right? Scars matter a lot. Zoro scarring Kaido is a much bigger deal than Luffy knocking him down. The other thing to consider is that with Luffy, from everything, like, a lot of that was when Kaido was in dragon form. We kind of say Kaido in dragon form is a bit of a wash because everybody lands hits on him in dragon form. But the bigger thing is also that again, like, if you're comparing the Luffy interaction to the Zoro interaction, the big difference is it's made very clear that Kaido does not want, like, he is not ever trying to get hit by Enma, right? With everything else with Kaido in the early stages of the fight, I've seen people make the excuse that, like, well, Kaido wasn't trying that hard, or, like, he's sandbagging, or, like, he's letting characters get hits in and stuff like that because he can just tank it. That's established to not be the case with Zoro. Very clearly. Because you can swap it, like, Kaido's thinking of Zoro's attacks as basically Oden's attacks. And we know how much PTSD Oden's given Kaido, right? Like, it is made very clear that Kaido does not want to get hit by Zoro's attacks. Written into the story. There's nothing to debate there. Does not want to get hit by Zoro's attacks. So, you can imagine that Kaido's taking it a bit like, there's no real excuse to give the Kaido and Zoro interaction. That's a Kaido that fully understands he does not want to be getting hit by that sword. He's fully prepared. He's in hybrid form. Zoro has every bone in his body broken. Zoro still leaves a permanent scar on him and gets the better of him in that interaction, right? There's no way you can diminish that scene and compare it to, like, Luffy landing some hits earlier on when Kaido's in dragon form. He's letting everybody land hits on him, etc. That's a very, very different context, the Kaido and Zoro interaction. Based off of that, what's he going to do against Mihawk? If he's fully prepared, he's in hybrid form, he's already trying not to get hit by the move, right? And he still gets permanently scarred by a much weaker swordsman than Mihawk. Mihawk should take Kaido. The last time Kaido was in a 1v1 against a high-level swordsman, Oden, he lost. Like, whatever maybe it's a bad matchup thing. Kaido's not good against swordsmen, who knows? But there's no evidence to suggest in the story that Kaido would do well against Mihawk. Nerve and V-Maker, thanks for the 10. It's interesting that Oda removed the Straw Hats from Marineford and has never been able to bring them back as significant players in the story. Their absence there made them permanent side characters. That is a huge part. So, like, I'm looking at Egghead Island right now. And I'm thinking about the character writing. I think Whole Cake Island is still the best Straw Hat focused arc in post-time skip. Good for Sanji, but also good for Nami. Nami was well written that arc as well. And even Brook as well. Chopper was probably the weakest written Straw Hat in that arc. And, you know, even pre-time skip, there would be arcs where, like, not every Straw Hat gets their shine. But, you know, Sanji, Nami, Brook, they were all well written that arc. It's just the ensemble that he's had trouble doing. So with Egghead Island, the character writing, I'm like, some of it's the strongest ever. Like Kuma, I think Bonnie's very good. I think what Oda's doing with Kizaru, even Lucci to some degree, it's really good. But how do I weight that with the Straw Hat treatment? I don't know. How do we want to weight the character writing? Jack Butcher says, why doesn't Kaido have Mihawk in his top 5 then? They probably never fought Mihawk. From what we can tell, the top 5 are all characters that he's fought and been impressed by or who have gotten the better of him in some way. I know Joggerwell, thanks for being a Yonko tier member for 18 months, man. It's always good to see you. Hear you on the art, man, especially the absurd panel clutter post-Punk Hazard. I don't know how far the WIT project goes, but Egghead deserves a perfect adaptation. Hey, I'm liking the art style that Toei is doing. I don't know. I like the art style. Yeah, like, so it's, on one hand, it's like not every arc needs to be focused on the Straw Hats. So the way I kind of evaluate it, okay, with character writing is, like, not every arc needs to be focused on the Straw Hats, and the Straw Hats don't need to do that much each. Like, it's, like, an arc can still have really good character writing, even if the Straw Hats are in the background as characters. However, if the arc concludes with it being kind of like all about the Straw Hats, this was one of my bigger gripes with Wano, which is that the Straw Hats had no storytelling for like 100 chapters. They were just not involved in the plot whatsoever. But then the conclusion of Wano was Like, it's pretty much them just coming in and beating up all of the officers and calamities and everything like that without having any sort of storyline for them beforehand. To me, that's poor character writing, because you can't have your cake and eat it too. In past arcs that I considered to be well written, it was like, I mean, and in general, just storytelling in general, how you write your heroes, how the conflict is being resolved. Just having characters come in at the end to save the day and solve the conflict when they weren't really written into the story beforehand is generally clumsy writing, right? It's okay. So, for example, if you're an arc like Drum Kingdom, Usopp and Zoro don't really do much in the story, and they're not really integral to the story's conclusion. They get some little moments here and there, but, you know, that is what it is. Something like Alabasta, where the Straw Hats are really, really involved, all of them throughout from start to finish in the story. And then at the end of the arc, like, they're the ones that are resolving the conflict, beating all the bad guys. That's good, clean storytelling. Same with Enies Lobby. Just in general, like, that's what character writing kind of is. You have the characters go through something, then they're the ones that, you know, get to resolve the conflict. Wano was a little different in that we focused on all these side characters, didn't focus on the Straw Hats at all. And then at the end of the day, it's still the Straw Hats just coming in with basically no writing behind it, and then they're just, their only job in the arc is to fight bad guys, which is a lot more shallow than what their writing once was. So I'm kind of looking at this and I'm like, to be honest, if we conclude this arc and the Straw Hats are not too involved with the Gorosei or anything like that, and they kind of maintain a low level of focus, that's honestly kind of better than, you know, if, I don't know, like, either treat them as side characters for the arc and save their writing for another arc. I don't know. Like, I would still be really hype. I still want to see the Straw Hats do stuff. It would just feel very shallow, because it's kind of like they're not involved emotionally whatsoever in the arc. I guess they would be. Like, I guess it depends on how Oda writes it towards the end, but it just would feel weird to me for them to be NPCs the entire arc, and then, I don't know. Like, they're just not set up to get, like, a really earned good character moments, in my opinion. I didn't really feel anything, for example, when Zoro's fighting Lucci, right? I'm not really feeling anything during that fight, because it's not even just because it's off-screen or whatever, a lot of it. It's because there's just nothing to really work with character. Like, in the context of that fight, what's Zoro really been through? Like, what are his thoughts, his feelings, like, his character storyline throughout this arc? There's nothing really there, right? He's fighting Lucci just because it's Zoro getting a fight against Lucci. Like, it's just a thing that's have Zoro fight Lucci. It's just a fight that's happening. I don't really feel anything during it. Like, we get some stuff towards the end, like, you're dead weight to the crew and everything. It's like, has that been a storyline for Zoro in this? Like, has that been something that he's been dealing with this arc? No, it's kind of a generic thing. It's just like, you're dead weight to the crew. And to me, it's a sharp contrast if you go back to Enies Lobby. Lucci is saying very similar things to Luffy, actually. It's actually a pretty strong parallel to Enies Lobby. In Enies Lobby, Lucci's saying a lot of similar things to Luffy, which is like, you're the captain, like, it's your burden. If you can't beat me, your whole crew's gonna lose. Like, can you actually live up to this challenge? And, like, Luffy's entire responses and interactions to that are built off the entirety of the story of Water 7 and Enies Lobby beforehand, which was entirely about his burden being a captain, like the responsibility that comes with it, like his need to protect the crew. It's building off of his previous fight with Bluno, where he talks about that being his responsibility. Like, there's actually weight and meaning to all that. It's not just Luffy getting a fight to get a fight. With Zoro versus Lucci, I'm just like, I feel literally nothing for this character. I don't really care about this character in the context of this conflict. So, I don't know. Like, it's cool that he wins. That's pretty much it. But I had so little investment. At least when, like, Luffy's confronting Kizaru, we start the fight with Luffy talking about how it's not going to go like Sabaody again, right? And I'm like, okay, that's cool. Like, we've got context for this. Like, this is calling back to something. And we get a little bit of that, you know, as things progress. Like, Luffy telling Kizaru that, you know, the second time around, like, oh, there's no way you think I'm going to let you escape this time, right? I like that it's building off of past storytelling. With the Straw Hats this arc, I just don't even know, because they've been so underused. If they get fights, I'm not sure how the fights would have meaning. So it depends. I don't know. King G says it's not meant to be that deep though. No, but that's kind of, like, I get that it's not meant to be that deep, but to me it's symptomatic, which is just like, is anything with the Straw Hats these days meant to be that deep in this arc? Like, are they just NPC characters? Do they just exist to get fights or check off boxes like Brook getting the ship back or something like that? I don't know. John678, thanks for the 2. What does level 99 Morj look like? I don't even know how to answer that question. Also, let's get the stream likes up to 300 real quick. JP, thanks for the 5. I feel like Strahd character writing is better evaluated in terms of a full saga rather than arcs that aren't the climax of the saga. You know what? You're honestly right. I think I'm a little jaded on that because, to be honest, like, you are right. You are right. Part of the reason I'm jaded on that is because during the Wano saga, a lot of people were saying, even before that, actually, like, it was kind of a consistent, like, people might not remember, but it was kind of a consistent criticism that was being brought up throughout post-time skip One Piece, which was, like, through Punk Hazard, through Dressrosa, through Zoe, Hokage. A lot of people didn't like that half the crew was missing. A lot of people were complaining that, like, the Straw Hats aren't getting enough focus. The Straw Hats aren't getting enough focus. That was something that people were talking about a lot. During that period of time, you might not remember, but, like, the Wano reviews, I was like, as Wano was getting going or starting up or whatever, I was really, 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 like, pushing the idea that, like, look, I know, like, this, through reviews, videos, etc. At that point in time, I was talking a lot about how, like, just because these opening arcs of the New World weren't that Straw Hat focused, well, that's because, as you can see, everything, I invented the not invented the term, but I started calling it a super saga. I was like, there's this super saga that's taking place from this whole Doflamingo storyline leading into the Kaido storyline. Like, this is one gigantic, overarching narrative, the super saga. We can expect that by the end of this, by the end of the Wano storyline, that's the storyline that Oda's really saving a lot of really good stuff for the Straw Hats, right? I was pretty optimistic about this. I was like, look at past sagas, Baroque Works, you know, I forget the other examples I brought up, but, like, you know, just through past sagas that we've had in One Piece, if you wait long enough, I was like, yeah, the Straw Hats will eventually get their time to shine. There will be storylines about them. And then we get to Wano, and the entire arc is not about the Straw Hats either. So it just continues the whole trend of what the previous arcs were. So that's why I'm kind of jaded on that. A lot of people were happy because the Straw Hats got fights, and I kind of realized that, okay, for a lot of people, the Straw Hats not being involved just meant they just want the Straw Hats getting fights, not storylines for the characters. They just want Straw Hats to beat people. That's not for me. That's, I mean, to me it's cool. Like, you can get good writing in fights, but in the past, the good writing in fights was always off of the back of good writing throughout the arc beforehand. But that's kind of why I'm kind of like, I don't know. Because I defended that point of view for a long time that, hey, you know, Straw Hats they're kind of sidelined a lot in these arcs, like Dressrosa with side characters, and, like, Punk Hazard and Hokage Island, half the crew's missing, and all these arcs. But, like, Oda's building to something really big. He's building to Wano. We can trust that in Wano, the Straw Hats are going to get to shine. It's going to be very, like, a lot about the Straw Hats. Then it was less about the Straw Hats than even previous arcs. But again, Final Saga, at the very least we know in the Final Saga, the Straw Hats' dreams are going to be concluded for the most part, right? So maybe even if it's not Egghead, yeah, maybe even if it's not Egghead, hopefully the future arcs, like, they just have to cover the Straw Hat stuff, right? JP, yeah, that's my thoughts on it. That's my thoughts on it. King G, thanks for the 5. Zoro versus Lucci isn't an integral fight in Zoro's progression, so it doesn't need the character writing. It's just a fight for narrative. Yeah, but that's my point. Like, I agree with you. I agree with you. But to me, it's kind of just symptomatic of everything else, which is there isn't really anything for Zoro or for these Straw Hats so far, you know? The fight that he does get isn't important in any way. It's just a thing that sidelines him for a bit. There's not really any story elements to build off for him, stuff like that. Um, so I don't know whether I include the like. I guess let's wait and see. I don't even know because Oda is treating the Strats like side characters, like NPCs this arc, but you don't need them to be important every arc. But I'm like, I don't know. Let's just say the character writing is really good right now because it's really good. I'm gonna give it a 9. I'll give it a 9 out of 10. No, 9.5. I'll give it a 9.5 out of 10 because I think the Strat criticism is. I do think the actual heroes of the arc need to experience things before the conclusion of the arc. I think even Luffy this arc has been really light writing wise, and he's the one that's going to be resolving all the problems, you know? And good writing does involve the hero, which is Luffy. Like, he doesn't need a character arc, but just some level of, like, he had little to no emotional involvement, period, for the, like, there wasn't really anything story-wise for him for the majority of the beginning of the arc. However, on the flip side, like, I'm still calling it a 9 point, like, to me that's minor because the rest of it is like 11 out of 10. Like, Kuma's is the best, it's probably the single best character writing since, for a One Piece side character, since, like, it's probably like the same, like, one of the best character, maybe the best written character in One Piece period. I think Robin pre-time skip, like her storyline up through Enies Lobby is right there too. Like, cause it's just a bit more elaborate. Like we're with the character longer. Like we go through Alabasta, Skypiea, all of Water 7, all of Enies Lobby. It's just a more elaborate look at the character. Kuma has the best single flashback. I think just as a character concept, Kuma's is really, really beautiful. Yeah, there's no need to compare apples and oranges. But I think the character writing is like, it's up there for the best that One Piece has ever been. I guess you just can't have everything, right? I don't know. But theoretically you can, right? I don't know. Because we've seen arcs where the Strats are written brilliantly and side characters are written brilliantly. Muglatan, thanks for the 2. Elbaf will be Blackbeard's arc. Honestly, maybe. Maybe. Jensen Peters, thanks for the 5. Hi, Morj. It sounds like we needed another deep dive into how the story structure and world building has changed over time. I'm gonna be honest, I kind of, for my own good, have to stay away from video topics like that. Because it will get me painted in a certain light that I don't want to get painted in. Umir Ula says, Morj, you skipped some supers. Let me pull them up. My bad. PK Ziggy, thanks for the 5. Usopp's most important this arc was stopping the Sunny with bamboos, dog. LMAO. He stopped the Sunny with bamboos? When did this happen? Loud Waffle says we can. Oda's done it before. Yeah, I mean, Kuma's is the best, like, some of the best writing he's ever done, if not, like, the best character writing he's ever done. But if only it could be worked in with the Straw Hats, too. You know, like the main characters. Oh, okay, I missed. Hold on. Oh, I missed several. I missed 2. Okay. Umair Ula, I missed yours. Why do you hate Mihawk fans? My friend thinks he's the strongest ever. He mocks me for being a Shanks fan, although I'm not as delusional as him. Yeah, so, okay, a lot of people think I'm a Mihawk. Okay, here's the thing. Here's the crazy thing. Which is, like, a lot of people think I'm a Mihawk hater. If you go back through, like, previous videos, like previous, like, streams and comments, like, lots of them, anytime you say anything against Mihawk that suggests that he's not, I don't know, like, there's, like, I just spent a good fucking chunk of this stream making the argument that, like, Mihawk should beat Kaido, right? Like, I spent a good fucking chunk of this stream making that argument. But I feel like Mihawk fans are never satiated because it's almost like one, him being stronger than Shanks, it's just like an absolute given for them. I don't know if that's a given. I want to see both of them do what they can do. All right? Because you can't just decide that Shanks is exclusively a swordsman until we see Shanks in, like, a full all-out fight. Maybe he is exclusively a swordsman. Maybe he isn't. We don't know. We just know that he's used a sword exclusively to fight so far. What, like, the characters can show more over time, right? Um, like that's one, right? Shanks Mihawk. But the thing is, it used to just be Shanks Mihawk, but over time it's kind of changed into something else. Where you see lots of Mihawk fans that are like, Mihawk was above Roger and Whitebeard, like Prime Roger and Whitebeard. Like Mihawk and Ryuma are right after Emu and Joy Boy as the next two strongest characters. Like these are legitimate takes that you see, and almost anything that kind of suggests that Mihawk's ceiling might not be as insanely high as they imagine it is taken to be like a deep offense. I don't know. Anyway. Brooke is the GOAT. Thanks a lot. Zoro's scar doesn't affect him the long run, and it doesn't affect him in the long run, and is barely enough to put him down. Yet it is his finishing move. Mihawk is nothing above Ashura. Kaido greater. We don't know if Mihawk is anything above Ashura. Like, at least, I feel like Mihawk can do stronger attacks than what Zoro did right there. But let's say for the sake of imagination, Mihawk's peak is the same as Ashura. I think that's possible, because I imagine that Zoro will be fighting Mihawk and Ashura. But in that case, Mihawk should still be above Zoro using Ashura while Zoro's every single bone in his body is broken, you know? Your point that Zoro's scar doesn't affect Kaido in the long run, I agree. It doesn't affect Kaido in the long run. Well, I say that, and then people bring up how injured Kaido was when he was fighting Luffy, so it's like, you guys gotta fucking pick one. Did those fucking injuries matter or no? But yeah, I agree that Kaido keeps going after it, but the point is that it's one attack. I think that's not what, like, it's off of a single interaction, right? So off of a single interaction with Zoro, when every single bone in Zoro's body is broken, right? No matter how you spin it, Mihawk's gonna be stronger than that. Even if you think that Mihawk, like Zoro Ashura is equal to Mihawk or something, Zoro Ashura with every bone in his body broken is gonna be weaker than Mihawk, right? So based off of that, like, Kaido, for a single moment, Kaido had to go up against Ashura Zoro. For one moment, and he gets a permanent scar, right? Fighting Mihawk would be like that for Kaido, but the entire time he would be fighting an opponent. Like, every single interaction would be, like, if you think, like, one scar, sure, that singular slash didn't knock Kaido out or put him down permanently, but he would be taking way more than that against Mihawk, is the point. Based off of that, like, just based off of the assumption that Mihawk would be stronger than Zoro with every bone in his body broken, you know? It doesn't matter if, like, obviously the single attack from Zoro is not going to put Kaido down. Like, we've got more of the Wano arc to go. The question is, could Kaido, like, how many more of those could Kaido handle? Because he got to take on a Zoro who only had any health left to even attempt one attack. Mihawk's going to be fresh. He's not going to be limited like that. Let's keep going. 00 Flavans, thanks for the 5. Do you prefer shorter, girthier arcs or longer, thinner ones? Don't be a size queen, Morj. I don't know what the difference between those two are. Let's say, I'm going to take your question seriously and assume your question is, I prefer arcs that are shorter but have a lot of shit going on in them, or longer but less densely packed with plot lines and stuff? And I know I'm taking this more seriously. I think Egghead is like a short arc with a shit ton going on in it, for example. Versus, like, Zoe would be a short arc with, like, very simple focus storytelling. And then a long but thin arc would be something like, maybe like a Water 7 Enies Lobby, which is a long storyline, but it is fairly tightly focused on the Straw Hats and some degree of side characters. I think those are my favorite type of arcs. Like, the long story arcs, but that don't go too overboard in terms of adding things. Okay. Ramen Noodles, thanks for the 5. Do you think Usopp, at least in name, is taken from Aesop as in Aesop's Fables? I heard somebody say that at one point, and I kind of, like, just really liked the idea, so I'll say sure. Yeah, sounds like a good idea to me. Muglaton, thanks for the 5. Do you think Gear 5th Luffy will ever defeat a major opponent by eating them? I feel like he has to, not gonna lie. My bet's on Akainu. Shit, the problem is that eating is one of Luffy's most significant character traits. I was gonna make a joke like that seems a little ridiculous, but then I'm like, fuck, what if Oda was setting up for something like that? That seems a little gruesome for One Piece. So I'm gonna say no. David John, thanks a lot for Mihawk. Either the strongest. Oh, and thanks a lot. This is your first super, so I appreciate it quite a bit. Either the strongest blade in existence chose Mihawk, or Mihawk forged the strongest blade ever through his battles. From this, we could say Mihawk is likely the strongest blade wielder ever. Okay, so like the thing is that you guys, like, this is the thing, like, Mihawk fans will say, like, well, based on our interpretation of this concept that is already very vague in the story, like the Black Blade or whatever, like, based on all of this, we could say it's likely that Mihawk is the strongest blade wielder ever. So much about, like, the thing about other characters is that, like, if I'm trying to hype up, I don't know, like, let's say Kaido, right? Kaido or Roger or Whitebeard or Shanks, there's like a million things I can point to in the story where like the characters themselves will hype them up, you know? Like I could say based on this character's quote, it seems like Roger was the strongest pirate ever. Or this character's quote, like Whitebeard was the strongest pirate ever or something. With Mihawk, nobody fucking talks about him like that in the story. It's always like, from this we could say Mihawk is likely the strongest blade wielder ever. That's not something anybody in the fucking story has ever, like, the best swordsman alive right now. That is what Mihawk has always basically been framed as. This other stuff is like, I don't even know what to say. Like, it just gets so, I don't know. It's like, nobody in the story fucking talks about Mihawk like that. But, like, Mihawk fans will take one thing and then extrapolate it 50 degrees to be like, based on all this, the story is telling us that Mihawk is the strongest blade wielder ever. It's like, really? Because if the story was, then why the fuck wouldn't Oda just say it? Like, why wouldn't it be written into the actual story? Because I can find like a million quotes of characters actually saying like, Whitebeard, strongest pirate ever. Whitebeard, his Haki transcended like all, Roger, same thing. Like, Roger, strongest pirate ever. All other pirates were like silver medalists to Roger and Whitebeard. Like, you can find so much shit saying stuff like that about these characters, you know? You can find so many quotes of characters gassing up certain like, with the Mihawk stuff, it's all just like this cryptic read between the lines, like, read between lines that don't exist. I don't even know what to understand. Patty G says, miss my super. I'm sorry. Hold on. Luffy went gear 5th. Morj next stream. OMG, look at this grievous near-death wound. Zoro gave Kaido Mihawk no diffs lol. Dude, I mean, you're being disingenuous because I've never said that Kaido was basically at full health when Luffy went gear 5th. You can actually look at my video, like, straight up, that talks about if gear 5th Luffy and Kaido had a rematch. I make it very clear that, yeah, Kaido was obviously at low health when he fought Luffy. My point has always very, very explicitly been, you can go through past streams. I challenge you to find me a quote that contradicts this. My point has always been that it is stated outright in the manga, in no uncertain terms, that even though Kaido's health is low, Luffy's health, when he goes into gear 5th, is lower than Kaido's. Gear 5th Luffy's health was lower than Kaido's. You know why? Because gear 5th Luffy was coming back from the dead. Luffy fucking died. It's made explicitly clear. That's not even my interpretation. Kaido himself talks about it, that Luffy's health is lower than his at that point in time. It is stated multiple times over the course of that section of the fight that gear 5th Luffy is basically holding on to life by the most threadbare, frayed of strings imaginable. Right? Kaido's injured, yes, but not as bad as Luffy, because Luffy fucking died, and you cannot get more injured than that. And Luffy, throughout the course of that section of the fight, is literally clinging on to life by by his fingernails. You can't be more, like, in lower health than Luffy was at that point in time. That's why Oda went so out of his way to make it clear. Like, that's why he had characters stayed over and over. Yeah, Luffy lower health. Zoro did damage to Kaido, for sure. And Kaido did take plenty of damage over the course of that rooftop fight. Zoro's was the most significant that any individual character aside from Luffy did to him, and it's fairly clear. It annoys me when people bring up stuff like the scabbards were involved and stuff. It's like, it was also made clear that the scabbards didn't actually do any damage to Kaido. It was also made clear that Kid didn't damage Kaido. Like, nobody really, except for the advanced Haki users, Zoro, Luffy, and Yamato did actual damage to Kaido, and Yamato's was very minimal. Zoro's is the only significant one aside from Luffy. JWP, thanks for the 2. Mihawk greater than Roger's ridiculous LMAO. Others will say it's not, because others will say that, well, Mihawk's the world's strongest swordsman, and that leads to this, and this leads to that, and that means that Mihawk may have been the best sword user of all time. I don't know about that, man. Alright, let's go. Okay. Themes. I think Egghead's thematic writing is pretty damn good so far. Actually, I'm going to give it a 9. I can't go into that here because I'm saving that for the actual Egghead analysis. But I think that this is actually one of the coolest arcs Oda's ever done, in that I'm not going to... There's 2 main themes in Egghead Island. 2 primary themes in Egghead Island. Everything else is subsets of these 2 themes. And actually, these 2 themes in themselves kind of tie together quite a bit. But there's 2 main themes that you can kind of separate out. Between these 2 themes, the amount of parallels that Oda has chosen to put in and work in over the course of this arc is actually kind of insane. I'm going to put it at a 9 right now, because themes, you really want to see how it all plays out. Character writing, I guess you shouldn't evaluate just yet either, because things could go south, but themes are really something where you only get the full message once the full message is played out. But so far, the way that Oda's layering, like a lot of what so many different pieces of the arc represent, I think is really, really, really well thought out. Like, there's a lot of cohesion to why he's including every piece that he's including. Like, from why he's including Kizaru here and what Kizaru's going through, to why he's including the Gorosei, to why he's including the Seraphim. All of it follows one continuous idea train. Even Lucci right now, I believe. Even Lucci right now, there's potential. Character writing, to me, it's like most of the character writing that I really wanted to see that's powerful is done with Kuma. It's kind of like now there's just room to screw up. The only reason I'm knocking a 0.5 is because, I think it's kind of wild that the Strats are just so irrelevant this arc. Like, this is maybe the most unfocused that that I think this might be the least amount of focus that the Strats have had in any post-time skip arc, period. Am I right? Akash Panda says, you have to at least tell us the themes, otherwise what are we even doing here? Okay, the 2 biggest themes of Egghead Island are, 1, dreams, and then the second is free will / human nature. Those are the 2 biggest themes. There's other stuff going on as well, but those are the 2 biggest things. Again, stay tuned for full analysis later down the line. Plot / art, I'm not going to elaborate any further. I think that, yeah, it's hard for me to give it a 10, because it's just like, you have, like, the majority of the cast as NPCs at the moment, so it's like, I don't know. Okay. Plot / arc structure. This is where I think it's a little bit weaker. No, I'd say, I think that it's genuinely kind of weak in this area. I'd say it's genuinely kind of weak because the beginning... I think the entirety of the beginning section... How do I say this? The arc is broken up into 3 sections, okay? 3 sections being... their arrival at Egghead through the Lucci fight. That concludes Act 1, essentially, if you want to compare. Through the Lucci fight. Then... the midpoint or the heavy point is basically when stuff is going down with the Seraphim. There's like a traitor among the Vegapunks. They're trying to figure that out. The crew kind of gets into some trouble. Like, Seraphim are rebelling. York captures Vegapunk. Bonnie's missing. Like, shit's going down at the island. And then that kind of resolves on its own off-screen, that entire section of the arc, which I don't think is good. But I kind of get why Oda did it. It's kind of cool, in a sense, to cut back and they just reverse the tables or something. especially considering the stuff coming around the corner is much more significant. And really, it's been the third section of the arc, like the climax of the arc, that's been phenomenal. But overall, I would say that this is like, I don't know. I think especially the beginning is fine. The beginning is fine. What Oda tried to do for the middle is just weak. I think it says a lot that, like, for the majority of the arc before we hit this finale section, the most interesting sections were when we were cutting away to other things, right? Law versus Blackbeard, Sabo at the Reverie, Garp Aokiji, things like that, Shanks Kid. So a lot of that exciting outside world stuff masked how, you know, how by the numbers and kind of uninspired a lot of the internal Egghead Island stuff was. So I'm going to go ahead and give this an 8. I do think that the way that the finale's been building has been phenomenal. Because it's been a really, really huge, like, snowball effect. Where first it's like, okay, Marines, Buster Call, Kizaru, that's a big deal. Then it's like, holy shit, Gorosei Saturn's here. Okay, now we're dealing with Saturn and Kizaru at the same time. And, like, the Marines are just ordered to blow up the entire island. And all these pacifistas are turning on us and all of that stuff. And then it's like, and then on top of that, now all these 4 other Gorosei are coming and doing all this crazy shit. So it's been snowballing really well. I would say the thing that I feel like is kind of missing for me here is, it's never, I think outside of the Kuma flashback, it still hasn't gotten that heavy. I think the Gorosei add and infuse a sense of atmosphere and heaviness into the arc. But at the same time, you know, Luffy and the Giants, like, it's not even just Gear 5th Luffy. Like, the Giants are also, like, a ray of, like, everybody, like, they're cool. They're chilling at the moment. They're mostly laughing in the face of all this. So it's hard to place exactly how heavy the atmosphere is supposed to feel right now. I'm going to give this an 8.5. Again, like, things don't have to be, like, to be clear, things don't have to get, like, Enies Lobby levels of tension or something like that for it to be good. I think lots of times, like, breaking the tension and joy and such can be good as well. I'm just a little uncertain right now what we are supposed to be feeling with the Gorosei here. Are they supposed to be creating an atmosphere, like an oppressive atmosphere, sort of sense of real fear and worry and uncertainty among the heroes? Or are we still supposed to be in the mode of, like, haha, like, Luffy and the Giants are, like, just kicking their asses, or, like, you know, able to, you know, just fight back against evil and, like, take care of it and everything. Like, I don't know what we're supposed to be, what the atmosphere is supposed to be just yet. So this is kind of where I'm at here. It's not tension. It's not just tension. Like, part of it is also just, like, just, are we, like, what is the climax shaping towards? What's the tone that's kind of being, I mean, tension is an aspect of it, but what's the tone that's being sent? Are we supposed to feel like this is a continually escalating problem that's getting more and more difficult? Or are we supposed to be feeling like, okay, the world government's trying to throw everything it can at the Strats, but the Strats are able to just, like, shrug it all off? Like, I'm not sure exactly there. I do think it's just, it is fundamentally getting very exciting and very unpredictable. So I rate that pretty high. I don't know. Overall, yeah, what's it averaging out to? Averaging it out to about a 9 out of 10 so far. I feel like by the end, like, this section is just, it's always going to be weak. But you know what? At the same time, what about extra stuff like lore / hype? Can we add that stuff in? Because, like, how do I say this? I don't know with Egghead how much I count the outside world stuff. Because if I'm looking at just the inside of the arc, like just inside Egghead itself, I think it's a solid 9 out of 10. If I add in outside stuff like Shanks storyline, Law Blackbeard storyline, Aokiji Garp Blackbeard Pirate storyline on Hachinosu, and of course Sabo Reverie storyline, then that bumps it up, the whole arc up, like a solid amount. In that case, like, you know, yeah, let's get into lore / general hype. Yeah, lore / hype. I'm gonna say 10 out of 10. Yeah. So I would say, for me with Egghead, if I look at just the isolated storyline of the arc, I'd say it's still a 9. If I look at the full thing, it's damn close to, like, a 10. To me, 10 doesn't even mean something has to be perfect. I know that, like, to me, a 10 can mean, like, something just does something so well that, like, you overlook, like, the couple areas that maybe it's not so good. Okay. Personal rating. Okay. Looking just at the Egghead Island sections itself, 9 out of 10. Including outside world events, I think I still got to give it a 9.5, just cuz the middle section of Egghead Island itself isn't that good. Should I just give it a 10? I don't know. Yeah, Sub the Scrub says, why does everyone think a 10 means perfect? I just think that it's almost impossible to hit something like that, because it's just like, there's going to be sections that aren't, it's going to be like little areas that aren't that good, but then some stuff, like Kuma's backstory is so great, like why can't it just outweigh that, you know? It's either a 9.5 or a 10. Personally, if the themes carried through, I think thematically, I still imagine it ending up at a 9, but maybe a bit higher, just because you can kind of see the themes shaping out for the most part already, and yeah, and it's like, it's really good overall. I wouldn't say like Oda's going for like the deepest stuff ever, but what he's doing is, I think, executing really well. Character writing, I think, depending on how Kuma stuff goes, I could just end up saying character writing, I think, is a 10. Because even with the little area I'm kind of docking it a little bit, that I feel like the Straw Hats, you know, the Straw Hat treatment, if Kuma just has an amazing, beautiful ending, and even some potential stuff with Kizaru, I could just say like it's a 10. Because, oh no, you know what? Because it's not just them, right? Because also, I think the character writing at Hachinosu across the board, this will probably go down as the best character writing for side characters that Oda has ever done at the end of Egghead. That's why it's so hard to place. Because now I'm thinking about it, I'm like, yeah, it's not just Egghead, right? It's Hachinosu. When Hachinosu was going on, I thought that the writing between Garp, Aokiji, and Kobe was some of the best that Oda's ever done. Ever done. Because it's like, One Piece is generally written. One Piece has great character writing, but generally it's written with angles of correct and incorrect, right? Good guys, bad guys, right? Like, Kuma's got a beautiful story, but you understand who the good guys are, who the bad guys. I think who the good guys are, who the bad guys are, what the right thing to do is, what the wrong thing to do is, who's evil, etc. With Hachinosu, it was some of the more nuanced and subtle writing that Oda's ever done, where there's no bad guys. Garp, Aokiji, and Kobe are all, we view them all as, maybe Aokiji the furthest away or whatever, but we view them all in a positive light, right? We don't think of them as villains. They're all just standing for something different in this scenario. I think the character writing there was really good. Maybe I should just say the character writing's a 10. I think if you include that stuff, the character writing's a 10. So here's the thing. If we include... Okay. So, theme... Okay, I'm going to do... Okay, here's a little... Okay, here. Key. Okay? Blue text equals including outside world events. Alright? Let's do that. Okay, I can do 2 ratings. Okay? Themes stay the same way. No, because the thematic writing of Hachinosu is also really good. Okay, let's start here. The fuck? Turn blue. The fuck? I think everything gets a bit of a bump with this. Turn blue. Am I fucking insane? What the fuck? Or indigo, whatever the fuck this is. What is going on? Okay. I'm actually fucking confused. Why is this not blue? What is going on here? How come I was able to turn this blue, but not this? Okay. Desperate measures. If I paste this, okay, we got to do it like this. Okay. Yeah, I think some of the messaging in Hachinosu is phenomenal. Okay. Character writing, I would make the character writing a 10 if I'm including Hachinosu. I would say it outweighs the Straw Hat situation. Plot and arc structure, I think, is still not the best, but it gets slightly better once you include that stuff. This doesn't really change with that. No, yeah, this doesn't. No, it gets better with the outside stuff. It gets better with the outside stuff. It's like in a different category. It doesn't really affect how the climax of this arc is going. But the Reverie stuff really plays into the climax, so that's actually not true. The Reverie stuff really plays into the climax. So lore / general hype, I'm actually going to dock it for Egghead Island itself, but then up it for including everything, right? So if you include everything, it's a 10. Alright, but even at Egghead, depending on Vegapunk revealing the truth of the world, it could be even more. No, this should be a 9.5. Okay, there we go. Dynamic, thanks for being a Yonko tier member for 13 months, man. Hey, Morj, love the streams. My wife and I argued over when the Wano vid is coming. She says she'll divorce me if it isn't out by May. Please save my marriage. Listen, man, if you get divorced, you get that sweet, sweet alimony money. You know, your wife's gonna have to pay you for years and years. So I'm actually doing you a favor by, maybe not putting it out just yet. But I'm trying to see. Because once I move, then we got the couple weeks break. That helps a lot for me. So maybe I can do it. Okay. Am I missing anything? Alright. 9.5, 10, 8.5, 9, 10. Holy shit, look at the ratings. The ratings are crazy good. Alright. Please turn blue. What the fuck, man? Am I fucking crazy? What's going on? Okay, what if I select a different color? This works. I don't understand this program, man. Alright, and it's just Microsoft Paint, but whatever. Including outside world events. Is it just a 10? No, it's a 9. I'm gonna... Fuck. I'm still gonna leave it at a 9.5. I'm gonna leave it at a 9.5. I think by the end of it, I could have it at a 10. Alright. Alright, everybody. This is kind of how I'm viewing it right now. What do you guys think? We're going to call the stream in a few minutes, but I'm just curious. Michael Bisley says, I don't understand why you wouldn't include the outside stuff. It's all part of the arc and plays into the arc's themes. I mean, I don't think that's the case, because I think some stuff is fairly disconnected. I think that Shanks and Kid situation, I think that's just something that, like timeline-wise had to happen. This arc, and I think Oda dropped it in just to like get things kind of prepared for Elbaf. I don't think it really ties to like almost anything that like the Reverie stuff. I think that's fairly closely tied to what's happening here in terms of giving us some good context, setting the stage for what the world is going through right now, and how that plays into the spotlight that's being placed on Egghead Island. But a lot of the other things, I think they could be placed close to anywhere. Like they could have been done before the arc. After the arc, I think just time, like, how do I say this? I think timeline-wise, Oda needed to have certain events happen during this arc so that things will be set up once the Straw Hats exit. But I don't think the Law and Blackbeard showdown is relevant in most of these ways to the arc, in terms of character writing, the actual plot of Egghead Island whatsoever, thematically. It doesn't really do... It's not really tied, right? Shanks, same thing. Hachinosu is great, and I do think Hachinosu connects, at least thematically, in certain ways, but it's looser than what's actually happening at Egghead Island itself, that's for sure. Reverie, the Sabo Reverie events are the things that are most closely tied to the arc. But the reason I'm hesitant to I almost give it a different ranking is because this is the first arc. Like, and I did a video about this way back when it was happening, when I was talking about like how much Oda's cutting away. This is the first arc in One Piece that's written like this, where the major outside world events that happen concurrently that we usually only get to cut to later on, say like Ace fighting Blackbeard, Shanks meeting, Ace fighting Blackbeard, Shanks meeting Whitebeard, those sort of things, right? Those outside world events that usually happen post arc or before the next arc or something like that. This is the first time that in the middle of an arc, we are cutting away repeatedly to find out what's going on at the same time. So it's very different from other One Piece storylines in that sense, because it's like, you know, if partway through Water 7 Enies Lobby, like, we just cut away to the Ace Blackbeard stuff, like, that would be really cool. Shanks, Whitebeard, same thing. I don't know, but it wouldn't really be connected to what's going on in the arc itself. It would just be cool stuff being dropped in. I don't know. Kirby inhales Jotar, says, even if something is not tied to the themes of the arc, it still happens during the chapters of the arc, so it factors into our enjoyment of the arc. I get it. Like, I agree, but I'm trying to think of it as a story. To me, like, what's the story of Egghead Island? Because when I think of Sabaody, I'm thinking of a clear storyline. Like, here's the things that, like, here's the journey of the Strides, here's what they went through during that storyline, you know? When I'm thinking of Alabasta, I'm thinking of a storyline. When I'm thinking of Egghead, the first thing I'm usually thinking of is the Straw Hats storyline in Egghead. Like, here's the things that happen at Egghead. Then I kind of have to remind myself, like, oh, wait, but then, like, this also happened to be the period of time in the story that we cut away and we got to see Shanks fight Kid, or Law fight Blackbeard or something. Like, to me, I guess what I'm talking about is the story of Egghead itself. I guess I'm evaluating a little bit differently than, like, the series of events that happened to take place, like, in this stretch of chapters to this stretch of chapters. I don't consider Shanks and Kid to be part of the story of Egghead Island. I don't consider, Law versus Blackbeard to be part of the story of Egghead Island. But I get that it took place during the time span of this arc. So, like, it's just, it's hard to compare to other One Piece arcs, because Oda just never used to write like that, right? When we're at an island, we stay at this island, we focus on this island, and at the end, we can cut away and find out shit that's happening outside. So it's a little bit different. All right, everybody. Akash Panda says, we did that between acts in Wano. See, even in Wano, it was, like, between acts, so he never really interrupted. Like, he found a stopping point. I guess the stopping point is arbitrary. You could just throw in act numbers here, too. But even in Wano, the cutaways were really, like, it's nothing close to this, right? The cutaways were, one was chapter 925, which actually was stuff that was generally tied to Wano. It was, like, Blackbeard narrating, like, here's some stuff that happened, but, like, you know, the real focus is what's going on in Wano with that monster Kaido or whatever. And then after Act 2, we cut away for only just two chapters to talk about the Shichibukai abolishment and to tell us about Rocks, which actually was still pretty tightly tied to the events of Wano as well. So those were more like little intermissions, you know what I mean? I don't really consider that when I'm evaluating the story of Wano myself personally. Like, I don't really think about, like, oh, Wano was the arc where, like, we got to focus on the Shichibukai abolishment or whatever. I think about the story of Wano personally. I don't know. Okay, everybody. Yokai Gota says, I thought the cutaways in Wano and Egghead are fine. No, the cutaways are cool. Like, I think there's almost never been a time that Oda's, like, cut away from something and it hasn't been really cool. I completely forgot. Cross Guild 2. Yeah, character writing across the board, Oda's just nailing it with side characters right now. It's always been really cool. It's just that I guess I'm trying to think, like, the story of Egghead Island itself, how do I view that? Compared to the story of Alabasta, the story of Sabaody, the story of whatever it may be, right? Skypiea. But then if I'm looking at, like, including everything that happened in this arc, because it is part of the arc, then, you know, it bumps it up as well. So anyway, this is what I got it right now. But yeah. All right, everybody. Okay, am I missing any supers? Let me know now or forever hold your peace. Did Luca do something to Booker again? No, I don't think they're even playing today, unless I'm wrong. All right, everybody. All right. This was a cool stream. And yeah. Okay, so just for the heads up going forward, Monday streams will be One Piece related streams during this break. Friday streams will be more variety topics. I'm going to try and find more fun stuff to do. Maybe I'll stream myself doing games, maybe some other outside topics, movies, TV, something like that. Who knows? But that's just the way it's going to go. And lastly, I am moving. So there's only going to be one more stream left in this background. Because I'm moving this in the next several days, I don't know if next stream is going to be Thursday or Friday. If it's Thursday, it'll be in the evening. If it's Friday, it'll be earlier in the day. I still have to sort that out myself. But I'll try and sort that out soon. But it's going to be one of those 2 days. But in general, aside from that, streams will be Friday for this break and just in general for One Piece going on. So yeah, thanks for tuning in, everybody. And yeah, I will talk to you all later. Fire Punch stream, says Loud Waffle? Maybe. I don't know if I'll read it this week. I'm going to read it very soon, though. I'm going to read it very soon. I feel the itch to get into that one. All right, everybody. Talk to y'all later. Thanks for coming through.